Welcome to a LOP Voice Chat special event, the Flat Earth Theory, with special guests, Jibby Jedi and Han Solo. I will be Nolo and yours truly, Coolhandluke. Tonight's topic will be epic, to say the least. People are asking me, Luke, why are you doing this topic for? This is a troll topic. No, it's not. These two are out looking for the truth, as we should be too. NASA's lied to us, the government's lied to us, and all Jibby's doing is looking for the truth. A noble cause, indeed. Tonight you'll hear Jibby's truth. Let's get it started, shall we? Jibby, in your own words, what is the Flat Earth theory, and why do you believe in it?
Well, basically, I come at this from a NASA fakery perspective. I've been following NASA since probably 8 years old. My first science fair project was on the Earth. I had a globe in the class, and then I threw in Atlantis in there just for the hell of it. And then 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, all my science fair projects were on the planets. And that's when I started to notice the infamous words artist rendition. And all the other kids, they would have real photography for their projects, and mine were always crayon or paint or markers, and on big poster boards for the science fair. And it was just a trend I started to notice. It wasn't real photography for the planets. It was cartoons. It was artist renditions. And this trend just went on my teenage years, and it just started to become depressing. So then I started to notice some other things too, in their information and in their footage. And I just started to put two and two together, and then I hit the moon fakery, the moon landings back in the 90s. Went through all that, and I was on the fence. I wasn't really sure. There was some good arguments, but it was 2015. I was at the end of 2014. I was researching Saturn pretty deeply with a couple of folks at LOP, and we were exchanging information. And I come across a video in YouTube, "Flat Earth Clues" by Mark Sargent. I said, "What is this?" All right, I watched 15 minutes of it, and after 15 minutes, I couldn't close my mouth. My jaw dropped right open, and I said, "Wow!" Like I just didn't put NASA fakery to that kind of level. So I immediately went off on my own. I watched a couple of more of the Flat Earth Clues. And then I hit it hard. I went through NASA footage, high altitude balloon footage, a lot of high altitude balloon footage. I watched that for days and days. And I just went from there. Oh, what's this? Oh, I can't turn the chat sounds off. How do I turn the chat sounds off?
You hit settings in the top right, mate, with that little wrenches, and then you'll see the thing for sounds, and untickle the sounds.
Off. All right, where was I? All right, hang on a sec.
Listening to LOP Topic Chat. Tonight's topic is Flat Earth Theory, sponsored by the Biased Propaganda Network.
So I'll take care of the chat sounds in a second. Alright, hang on a sec, guys. Han, can you talk for a sec while I take care of these chat sounds?
Yeah, of course I can, no problem. So basically, I all thought this all stuff was absolutely ludicrous and nonsense. Well, I look at it in a totally different way from JJ. He comes in it from the NASA sort of point of view, and I started looking at it as just a mathematical exercise. Okay, so let's look at the curvature of the Earth, and that's it. So obviously that's going to be a known thing, a known quantity. I can come in, mathematically look at that curvature and go, right, there it is, and just close this entire subject down. What I found out is there isn't a real equation for the curvature of the Earth. Now, there's lots of equations out there, and I'll put some links in so everyone can go and look at it. But even those equations that the Flat Earth are using is wrong, because it's not 8 inches, it's 7.93 inches per mile. And even that's technically wrong as well, because when you start looking at the Earth model, and the Earth has different shapes and sizes all over, then that model changes based on how the Earth changes, allegedly. It's different egg shapes, it's bowing out in the middle, and depending on which blog you read from NASA, is depending on which way that they're pushing the shape and what they're trying to say. So that's where I really came at it from, and then I started looking at other programs that would have to have this curvature in. And the one that got me really was the mission systems that fire missiles against boats. So when you're on sea level, it's level. When you're up a hill, down a hill, or you're in an aircraft, people can argue all day long. When you're firing a missile at a boat, from a boat, well, there's no curvature calculation written in that. And that's the problem. When you look at that mission system then, and you're talking about when you're missing a target by feet over 3-4 miles, then you've got a problem. That equation needs to be there. It doesn't exist. Okay, Jay, have you fixed that yet? I can keep talking if you want. It's me. I can talk for hours. The other thing I started looking at too, guys, was the actual flight plans around the planet. Because I thought, okay, enough of looking at the curvature nonsense and figuring out that that's all made up. So when people started saying the flight plans are all wrong, I just thought, okay, brilliant. This is going to show me that the Earth is round. Had some messages back and forth with people, and we're just like, okay, this isn't going to be real. There's no way we can find this out. And this is the other big weird thing with the Flat Earth theory. When you start looking at stuff yourself, you start really getting to answers. And most people that put up videos blatantly lie. So when they say that there's no non-stop flights from Santiago, Chile over to New Zealand or Australia, there are non-stop flights. But they're also lying on that, because I set up for 2 weeks on flighttracker.com watching these flights take off. And what they do is when they take off, they fly over to LA, they refuel in LA, and then they fly down. Well, if you actually look at the map, which we'll put up later most likely, you can actually see these flight plans work perfectly on flat Earth, but they don't work on the round Earth. Sorry, I was getting messages. So
I didn't even get into it for a while.
So that's a huge red flag to me. And then I started looking at things like Virgin Atlantic in 2008. We're talking about they are going to reduce the flight time from England to Australia by 8 hours because they're now allowed to fly over the North Pole. Well, it wouldn't make any difference on a ball because the distance from one point to the other point is exactly the same, even if you flew over the top of the point. So we started looking at that and realizing there's a lot more.
I actually have a question. I'd like to cut in if you don't mind me interrupting you. If you don't mind me interrupting your constant jibber jabber.
All right, where did I leave off before? High altitude footage. Footage pretty hard, and then I came across what appeared to be just mostly GoPro cameras, and I started to wonder why so many GoPro cameras for high altitude. Why even put a camera up if you're just going to look at a funhouse mirror? Basically, a distorted image. I understand they have their uses, but it just started to seem like it was on purpose after a while. If you go to YouTube and just put high altitude balloon, it's hard pressed to find some regular lens footage. It's probably 90% GoPros on there, It seems like they were pushed hard. But I just kept going. I didn't look at any flat earther stuff. The flat earth people were, here's the proof. I wanted neutral information. I don't want biased flat earth information. I wanted just neutral. I wanted to watch balloon launches just from regular people. I wanted to look at information that was neutral. I didn't want government, and I didn't want flat earther. I just wanted regular civilian info. And I did that for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I felt pretty confident enough to start hitting the forums with it and just asking questions and, hey, take a look at this, take a look at that. And then it was 9/11 all over again with the hate and the anger, and wow, it's like, I don't understand. I'm asking a question here. Why are you guys getting so upset? Oh, you're crazy. Look at that. Well, I know it sounds crazy. Of course it does, but you know, there's always something to these things, though, especially when they don't go away. You get this conspiracy theory, it never goes away. Why? Well, there's usually something to it, and with flat Earth, there's definitely something to it. You know, none of us know what the whole entire planet, plane, whatever looks like, because, you know, we can't film it all. If you go online and try to look for North Pole images, you'll be hard-pressed to find some. If you look up Antarctica, you know, you'll see plenty of Antarctica, but it's just mostly coastline, tours, vacations. There's a lot of civilian footage you can look at, and, you know, it's just mostly coastline, though. And then there's the flight plans thing Han mentioned, and there are a lot of little aspects, and when you check into each aspect, you do find there's anomalies, there's some kind of trickery, fakery. With the NASA fakery, though, I kind of was one of those hybrids, like, oh, they lied about the moon, but, you know, they're doing real work up at the ISS, and I had no reason to think otherwise. I didn't really analyze it, though, with a critical eye until Flat Earth. That's when I started hitting things with a very critical eye instead of passively watching these things and accepting them just on face value, like everyone else does. This time I'm like, no, there's something to this. I can't find a curvature. That's huge. When you're on a flat level plane, no matter how high you go up, the horizon remains at eye level. Now, if we are on a ball, eventually the horizon should start to drop below eye level. And if it's the ball that NASA says we're on, 25,000 mile circumference, I think we should start seeing a little bit of drop. But the horizon will always stay at eye level, and it'll always stay flat. And that is a true sign of an infinite plane. And I think that's what we're dealing with. Infinite is a big word. This is why a lot of people want to hit the edge. They say Antarctica is an ice wall that goes around. Until I see, lots of video of this, for all I know, it could be a partial light. I don't know. I just don't know. We have to guess. Yes, ice wall, I said it. We all got to take a shot now. So there's expeditions being planned out for this year. Matt Boylan, who pretty much started the whole Flat Earth movement this year, he wants to get something going in Antarctica. He wants to get an expedition going in some groups. He wants several groups. He wants a ball Earth group. He wants a flat Earth group. He wants a hollow Earth group. He wants all these groups to get together with equipment and just hit Antarctica and look for this edge. Let's get some pictures. Let's get some answers. It just comes down to answers. And the Antarctica Treaty, if you go through that, there's a lot of funny business going on, and all the countries have signed it, and basically Antarctica is off limits for drilling and resources, and that's crazy in the corporate business world. But there's a lot of funny business going on with Antarctica. That's just Antarctica. Then there's the center North Pole, Hollow Earth. You guys, I think Hollow Earth and Flat Earth are cousins, personally. We both think there's a hole there. We don't know what's in the hole. You guys don't know what's in the hole. Nobody knows. So let's get there, Let's get there. Let's get some footage. Let's get some answers so we can get a complete picture of our home. That's basically all I want. So when I hit Flat Earth, that's what I did. I said, I want to see images of every piece of this planet I come up short of probably about 10%. Antarctica and North Pole, we don't have anything there. We have no. You'll find some lies, but you won't find anything that's tangible, something you can't debunk. You can always say, well, what about this? What about that? I want stuff. I want proof we can't argue. Sky's blue. That's that. What's the argument? The sun is bright. There's no argument. Like, that's the kind of proof we need, not on the fence. Well, I don't know, and then we're just going to keep going round and round. Han, anything you want to add to this?
Wait, sorry, mate. I was doing something different. Yeah, no, I could go on for this forever. I mean, literally, when I started off on this journey, it wasn't to prove that the Earth was flat or the Earth was round or any of that. It was just basically looking at facts and evidence. And then when you go through Admiral Byrd and you start looking at the Antarctic Treaty, the first thing you must sign as a country is to be part of the Antarctic Treaty. Otherwise, you can't be a legitimate country. The fact when you go through the Cold War and you've got Russia and the US working hand in hand to stop people actively going to Antarctica, and then the people were putting in chat, yeah, you can get a cruise down to Antarctica, yeah, for $17,000 you can go down, and when you get off, you get on a little tiny ice patch, because I've looked at all those cruises, and they go up to like $45,000 for a room on those cruise ships. And when you're doing that and you're looking at that and you're going, well, you're not actually going into Antarctica. Basically, you're cruising around it and you're getting off on a boat and then getting back on again. You're not actually going into Antarctica. You're not actually walking it across. Remember, Admiral Byrd said that Antarctica was twice the size of the United States. But you can't go there. Saying that you can go there because you can get off on a boat and pat some penguins on the head, it doesn't mean you can go to the Antarctic. That's just nonsense, And if you're using that as a fact because you can go there on a holiday and get off on a boat, that is just pretty weak evidence. That means you would pretty much believe in anything. If you can't get off, go anywhere, actually get deep into the guts of that place, which you can't. Is Admiral Byrd a valid source? Yeah, of course he's a valid source. He was a poster boy from America. He was put around on tour, wasn't he, going around. What a great job he was doing all over America. But Admiral Byrd is just like one of those other little blips, and when you start getting into the maps of the world, and everybody uses the actual official flat Earth map as their actual maps, which gets even weirder. I'm sure JJ will go into that a little bit. But then there's so many things that start coming across. But to me, the big points are, there is no curvature of the Earth, because it's not in any computer systems. It doesn't exist. It's not in the ILS tracking system to land an aircraft. It's not in any of AutoCAD. And when you're not putting that into an equation, then there's a huge, huge problem. That's either we're on a flat plane, or everything on the planet doesn't work, because we haven't taken into account the curvature of the Earth. Well, it all does work, so there is no curve. I'm going to put some of those links up in the chat so people can actually look at some of the equations that people are using for the curvature of the Earth. And as I state again, these are still even wrong, but the fact that no one's even coming back, and this is one of the things I put out there, that's why using 8 inches per mile squared, is because it's actually wrong. And the fact that the rounders aren't coming along and going because they don't know their own model, or people actually don't actually know what the curvature of the Earth is, and they're not actually pointing out that it's not 8 inches, it's 7.93, shows how little people actually are aware of the planet they live on. I'll let you have the floor, JJ, while I'm posting
Some map links in there. To the person asking the question. So basically, first mile, 8 inches or 7.93 inches. You do the miles squared. So 2 miles, 2 times 2, 4 times 8, 32 inches. 3 miles, 3 times 3, 9 times 8 is 72 inches. And then you just keep doing that equation all the way down. So looking at the distant objects, they should drop below this curve, and we should only see the tops of them. And they should also be tilted, because we are on a ball, and if you're looking at a distant skyscraper, it should slightly be tilted, leaning tower of Sears, I mean, it should be, we won't really notice it, though, you're talking like 100-mile perspectives. Maybe you'll start to see a little bit of a tilt. You come at it from 2 or 3 different angles, though. Somebody should notice this tilt of a building. The Chicago skyline. That's a famous YouTube clip where you can see the Chicago skyline. I think it was 70, 80 miles away, 50 miles away. I can't remember exactly. And then it did they called it a mirage, something mirage, grand mirage. I can't remember the exact.
That's what they said, and that's what they call a mirage. And it just seems to happen every weekend. Apparently, there seems to be a mirage over that particular lake. Just saying.
Mirage of the Chicago skyline. I personally did my own little test. I went to a little local mountain around here, New Hampshire, and they have a viewing area. You can look at Boston. It's about 73 miles away. I checked Google Maps just to get an accurate measurement. Brought my telescope. I could see this small water tower that's just off the highway. It's a famous water tower. It's, they painted it or whatever. And it's not that tall, but I could see it through the scope. I could see all of Boston. It's your vanishing point comes in, and things get smaller as your eyesight. We kind of have pyramid vision, I could call it. I should not have seen. I did the curvature numbers. Something like a 2,900 foot drop. At that distance, I tried to account for my height, so it'd be at ground level. It still came to about 1,000 foot drop. Accounting for my height, I shouldn't have seen any of the buildings or just the tips of the tall building. I could see all of Boston. So that just going by NASA's numbers, people will say, well, you're on land, and you might be on a flat part of the land. Well, that's true. That's an argument, and it's a good one. So we need to do these curvature tests over water, because water will always seek its flat level when it's at rest. Land,
Can I jump in there?
Yes, go for it.
When you're talking about that, these curvature tests, this is why I just don't get involved in any of that nonsense. Because at the end of the day, if there's no software code when you're firing a missile from a military boat to another military boat, it doesn't exist. Because the military have to take into account the curvature of the Earth. It's not there. It doesn't exist. So therefore, and remember when I say that, it's because of my connections and who I am. I can phone up Raycar, I can phone up Kinetic, I can phone up Lockheed Martin. Okay, so when you're on this, what do you use for that equation? What is it per mile? What is it? Is it per mile squared? How are you actually calculating that? And there's never an answer, because literally they don't know. I'm raising questions that no one's ever thought of and asked. Well, because they don't have to. So it doesn't matter about all those curvature tests at the end of the day. If it's not written in code and we have to use it to fire missiles at each other, it's not real. Oh, by the way, ice wall.
Cryle has a question for the guests. Go ahead, Cryle. Hey, Nolo, go ahead. You have a question. Cryle's not ready yet. Nolo, one of our hosts, has a question for the two guests, Jibby and Han Solo. Go ahead, Nolo.
Well, go ahead. I think Chris doesn't have a mic, so I'm just going to say, he's saying on a clear day he can see Mount Rainier from his island that's 200 miles away. I guess he's questioning then how could that be possible?
Well, 200 miles away.
100 miles.
You couldn't see it on you could see it on obviously on a sphere, round Earth, on a flat Earth. It's all possible. There's a place in Bournemouth in the UK where you can stand on, and the elevation is about 75 foot high, but you can see 86 miles across that Pacific part all the way over to France, and actually see the beaches. Now, as soon as you take the elevation into account, you'd actually have a drop that's absolutely ridiculous, and you should never be able to see that. And yes, the conditions have to be correct, and it does have to be a clear day. And there's only a couple of times when I've actually seen it when I was a kid, and I didn't even think anything of it until I started getting into this Earth stuff. And I was just like, oh my god, I can remember doing a school trip and going there specifically to stand there for 2 days, looking across this stupid thing to see if we could see France. I remember that. I mean, there's some little cable car that goes up and down, and all.
Could you do me a favor, Han Solo? Could you put up that link you put up previously with the math? I can read it out, and people can get the link.
Yeah, I've got about 4 of them, so I'll chuck a couple out there.
All right. The one you put up previously, anyway.
Yeah, I put 4 ups.
Okay. Okay, here we go. HTTP testingtheglobe, all run together.com. Images, capital ball, capital earth, capital M math, JPEG. .jpeg. Here's another one. HTTPS dizzib.github.io/earth/curve-calc.
Yeah, that one I don't trust so much is because they don't actually show you the calculation that they're doing. They work it out for you. I don't like that. I want to see exactly what you're using, what are the numbers you're using.
Okay, the main one seems to be testingtheglobe.com/images/ballearthmat.jpg. Should explain some of it. That way people can look it up and they can compare the math for themselves. It's kind of hard to do in a chat room to come and compare geometric outlines and such in the math. That's something they can do on their own. I'd like to kind of switch it just a little bit here in the questioning on we're discussing that this is a flat Earth, but in an overall picture of the universe, then what would be the sun and the moon? Are they globes also, or are they, what is their nature? The stars and the rest of it. How do they fit into the flat Earth picture?
The current task that we've all been working on, the sun appears to be traveling on a circuit path over the flat Earth. It goes around, and the moon not quite going at the same speed. The sun and the stars seem to move in sync with each other, basically the same speed, which would make sense on the ball model, but the moon is just slightly off. We're still trying to work on the phases because, to me, lunar eclipses and the moon phases are backwards the way we're seeing them. During a moon phase, we should see a gradual, change from the light side to the night side. It should be like a gradual shading, especially on a sphere. Instead, we get an abrupt cutoff. But during the lunar eclipses, we do see the gradual color shading from light to dark. You could still see the surface of the moon when it's darkened during the lunar eclipses, but during the phases, it's like it's not even there. So just from my, astronomy perspective, I feel like that's backwards. This last blood moon we just had, it seemed way off. The sun and the moon were in the sky at the same time. Like, how can we have an eclipse with that going on? When the eclipse was full, I stuck one arm out and pointed to the moon. I stuck my other arm out the other end where the sun should be, according to this, if we're in the middle. Because the Earth is supposed to be the thing that causes the shadow on the moon. Where the sun set is nowhere near where the sun should have been for the Earth to be causing the shadow. There's multiple videos on YouTube where there's an eclipse during the day or the early morning hours. The sun is on one end of the sky, and there's the eclipsed moon on the other end. How are we seeing this if we're the thing causing the shadow? That's one of many anomalies that we come across with the flat Earth stuff. But we're still trying to figure out what the stars really are. We don't know. Like, it's speculation. Everything I see through a telescope, it's just, you got the atmospheric twinkle, and you can't really get a nice focused image on any of them. They're always twinkling, sparkling, and they change colors. They strobe. There's some strobe, not all of them. That's another thing. They'll cycle through all the colors, and there's some that'll just strobe one color, and there's some that are weird shapes. Like some, to me, it looks like liquid light, but that's, atmospheric dense. The dense atmosphere. You're trying to look through it, and ice particles in the atmosphere. There's all that stuff that could explain that. I would probably like to get a nice shot of it above the atmosphere. But what was that? Is that you, Han?
Yeah, I just want to go on while you're talking about the sun, before we start going on about the moon, because quite a while ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a professor, and he's been studying the sun for about 15 years, and he was at Phoenix University, and he got fired, because he basically said the sun is flat. He said, listen, the sun is flat, it's not 93 million miles away, it's just not. And he was the foremost expert professor in the world at doing this, and he got fired. And you can actually go, it's very hard to find his stuff on this side of the world, because of the way the DHS servers run. But you can find him, and he explains that the sun is not a global thermonuclear reaction like we're taught. Now, he does say that the coronas that come off it are, which I thought was quite interesting. Now, his take on the whole thing was, he hasn't got a bloody clue what it is after studying it for such a long time. He actually thinks that it's a reverse black hole that's sucking in matter and spewing out energy onto us. That's the closest thing that he could ever come up to. He's just like, that's what I think it is, because no idea. That's just, after studying it for 15 years. But also, one of the biggest parts about it is the sun and the moon are actually the same size. And I know that everyone tries to talk about 93 million miles away, the 278,000 miles away, and all that sort of absolute nonsense. Because if that was actually true, the way the sun sets, it wouldn't be a gradual sunset all the way down to a point, because this thing is 93 million miles away. It would all go down universally at the same time because of its distance away. It wouldn't come down to this one little finite point, which it does, which is all kind of weird. And then there was a really good mathematician who came up with a point, well, we can't have time zones the way that they're working, because one thing with mathematics, if you've ever done a degree in mathematics, they'll actually teach you cannot prove anything with mathematics without another observation or something else. He said with mathematics I can prove that there's a leprechaun down the road at the end of the day and it exists. You can prove that with mathematics, but no one can see it, so it's not real. So what this guy did is he took time zones and he was looking at the observation of where the sun was, which is always 12 o'clock in that Pacific time zone, dead above people. So then he started working out with trigonometry of how far the sun is away using that, and he worked it out to be about 4,220 miles away. Now, it takes a long time to go through that, to go through all the calculations, and it's pretty boring, to be fair. I don't think everyone's going to sit there and want to go through it, but maybe we can do that at a later date, because I'm happy to go through and pull up that video. We can all do a step-through walkthrough and show, well, it's about 4,000 miles away.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that answer. I guess my question is more fundamental. Is the Earth being a flat Earth, is that a unique object in the universe? So what I'm saying to you then is the sun and the moon and that they're and stars or whatever, if you don't know what they are, would you admit that they're at least spherical? I mean, it's hard to imagine a thermonuclear explosion or furnace that the sun is without it being globular in shape. I can't imagine a flat nuclear furnace. So I'm just wondering, then, are we unique and other objects in space are globes, spherical?
I actually do think we are unique. I think the whole point of this mind trap is the way that we've been taught is basically we're an insignificant dust ball in the Milky Way, which is, I don't know if you know this, is 500,000 light years away, but yet somehow we have a probe out there that's taken a photograph of the Milky Way and our position in it, and no one questions how that probe got there and took the picture of the Milky Way, which just baffles me that we've got things that can travel 500,000 times the speed of light. So I actually think that there is something here, and I think that the big point of the difference between the globe and the flat Earth is we are unique. We aren't just a dust ball in space. We are actual special human beings. I actually have a feeling that this is going to lead to something else. This is going to be the discovery, and it's going to be the gateway to it, because there is something out there that's holding us back from being the people that we are. And you can go to the spirituality side of it. Nah, I don't do all that sort of Bible and all the other, bollocks. But that's just not me. But I actually do believe that we are going to go down a path, and we are special. There is something about this place, and that no, you're not. You're a dustball. Pay your taxes. Do what we tell you. You're insignificant. We've been at Pluto. You've got no idea about anything. Just do what you're told. Pay your taxes.
Very well said. I have a question for Jibby from Supertramp. Why is it with aircraft flying at 35,000 feet, we can never see them across the horizon? They always appear a few degrees above.
Oh, I can answer that question. I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to grab a cup of coffee.
Airplane flying 5 miles high. What exactly is the question?
The question is again, why is it with aircraft flying at 35,000 feet, we can never see them across the horizon? They always appear a few degrees above.
I'm still not understanding what the reference is. Are you talking about like perspective vanishing point?
Supertramp, are you talking about vanishing point?
We have this like kind of a perspective illusion as something passes overhead and it looks like it's going like over the curb or over the ball. When it's just hitting the vanishing point, you grab the telescope, you bring it right back. And where boats, for instance, that's how we pull boats back. You can't see the boat anymore. People think it goes over the curvature. You get a telescope, you bring it into view, you can see the white suds in the back. With planes, I say like look at long chemtrails. They go straight lines. Clouds, bottom of the clouds, they're flat. They go straight lines. Planes, they appear like they're going downward when you're looking at them straight on, and they're going away from you. But they're obviously not going downward. It's just your vanishing point, pyramid vision perspective. It gets so far away that it appears to disappear. This is what's also happening with the sun as the sun travels away from us. You got to think of it as a local light, and it takes the light with it as it traverses over the earth. And when it's, I can, Han or somebody or whatever, or I'll throw imagery on top of the audio for this later. People can watch it. You'll see it looks like the sun is going, over the curvature, but it's not, and it's taking all the light with it. It's a local light source. Han said 4,000 miles high. I don't think it's that high up, but it could be. I need more data for that. I need more visual data. I need more high altitude balloon, non-fisheye lens data. Maybe we can get a better estimate, but a lot of people say it's about 3,000 miles high. So from that height, its local light will shine down on the continents below, and as it traverses, it takes the light with it, and then it's just darkness. It's the only light in the dark room besides the moon. And when it's the new moon, then it's just the sun. But you got to look at it like that. Like that. This is our perspective now. We're not looking at it like we're on a ball. We're thinking to ourselves it's flat, and now we're looking at things from that perspective, and it all makes sense now. And then when you try, I mean, I can answer some more questions about it, but I'm trying to figure out what the plane question was exactly.
Okay, Crystal Phalanx, do you have a question, please?
Yes, I do. So if I'm standing on Cattle Point on the south end of the island on a clear day, then I can see all the way to Mount Rainier, quite far away. And it's at eye level, and it looks tiny. 14,000 feet high. So if this is something that is on a flat Earth rather than a curved Earth, it should be towering above me. But instead it looks like a tiny object at eye level. If my father in Tennessee at the exact same time wants to look at the constellation Orion, it's going to look like it's at a different position in the sky. So we have all of these different, I guess we call it triangulation methods, that we can look at the sky and we can see that we're at different places at different angles that seem to measure up quite clearly to a spherical or somewhat spherical object, and not at all consistent with what you would assume would follow for a flat object. How do you reconcile that? The math seems to be very strongly against you. You can use a protractor in the night sky and a friend who lives hundreds of miles away. It's very easy to do.
Do you want me to jump on that?
You can hit it.
Yeah, the problem with what you're saying is it makes complete logical sense, right? But no one's done those tests. You don't have a friend that's got his protractor out at night and he's gone there and measured that. And it hasn't happened because we've been asking this for a year for people to do this. It doesn't happen. It's just hearsay. You're talking about numbers that I haven't seen. If you send me those numbers, I'm sure I'll go over it and I'll show you the vanishing point, because remember, you can only see about 4 miles with the naked eye. But you can see, as you're pointing out, that star that is 9,000 quadrillion miles away is perfect. So the human eye, I mean, basically that, to me, isn't really a point, because I can't go out there unless you're going to give me data, and I'll give you data from my end and prove it. And it doesn't exist. That's the hard part about all of this, is people, we can make logical, rational explanations just like you've done. It sounds perfectly reasonable, but then there is no data to back it up. No one has done these tests. It doesn't exist. That's my hardest thing with the whole thing.
I've got a question here from Prosthetic Brain, and he asked about satellites.
Oh, I want to talk about this after JJ goes.
Yeah, I always ask people, you know, that this ISS and these satellites that you see in the middle of the night, what's illuminating them if the sun is on the other side of the ball? They're not that far out to the point. I mean, you got to think about the perspective size of the satellite and the Earth and the sun and all the players in the solar system. It's not like the sun is peeking over the Earth's shoulder to shine on these satellites at night. What's lighting up the satellite? If it was a flat Earth and the sun is down the road with its local light with it, and this object is up in the sky, it's reflecting the sun's light, well, then that makes more sense of why it's lit up at night. If it's the sun's light that's illuminating it, it could be self-illuminated. We don't know what a lot of these things are. Like the ISS, it's obviously up there, and it spins, and you can track it. And, I mean, what's allegedly the ISS, but when you look at the ISS through NASA's pictures, the engineering is ridiculous. They have no hatch seals between sections, the O-ring clamps, all these things. I'm not an engineer. When you hear the engineers talk about it, it is pretty laughable, and it brings it to your attention, too. Like, the design of this ISS is ridiculous. The temperatures up in the thermosphere, they would melt all the metal of the satellites, of the ISS. Thermosphere is about 2,000 degrees, 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. There's not a lot of atmosphere up there, so it's mostly radiated heat. And just the temperature changes. This metal would, expand, and it's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. The outside of the ISS, there's all kinds of wires and very sensitive, very delicate parts that you would not put exposed on the outside. Meteor showers, they never worry. They never worry about a meteor shower. Oh, we got the Perseus meteor shower coming. Watch out for any, wrecked satellites that are going to crash. It never happens. Why? You use NASA's numbers, or how many objects are flying around at the outside. They say 500 million tiny pieces of meteorites and meteoroids and flying around. It's like, if somebody told you, hey, you want to go up there, you get about, there's about 500 million bullets up there, and one might hit you, and if it does, you're dead. So do you want to do it? Like, would you really do that? Like, going by their numbers, and yeah, it's a lot of room up there, but where are these accidents? I've never even heard once of a satellite getting hit by a meteorite, and we see pictures of wreckage. I've never seen a real photograph of a satellite. That's another thing. Show me a real photograph, not a painting, not an image, just one real photograph of a satellite, and then I want to see one more just to make sure, but I can't even see one, not even one.
Okay, let me jump in there and go on about these satellites. I've just put a link there for all the satellite manufacturers in the world, and you can go through every single one of their websites, every single manufacturer in the world, and go and try and find a picture. They're not there. You can see a couple of pictures of people working on them, or some tinfoil stuff. They're making something. There's all the space agencies in the world. Go and have a look. Literally, there's a couple on there that you can get into, and they've got all different types. They tell you this one's for satellite radio, this one's for TV bands. They talk about the QU band, and you'll get into all of that as you start going through. And they have these images next to each one of these satellites, but none of them is a picture of a satellite. Absolutely none of them, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So then I started thinking about this for a little while, because I thought this satellite thing was absolute nonsense. Of course there's satellites. I can believe the Earth's flat, but of course we've got satellites. So then I was going back when I first started going through Google Earth. Now I can remember when I was doing Google Earth, there was an image of a steel mining factory, something in Wales. It was supposed to be the largest building in Europe at the time. It was 2.5 miles long, and it was decommissioned in the late 1980s. And they tore it down in 94, 96-ish to build something or whatever. So there's me on Google Earth in 2006, looking at these satellites there, and I'm gobsmacked and going, I can remember looking down this, because my grandparents lived near there, and one of my grandparents worked in this place. But why have they got an image of this thing that was torn down 15 years ago? And the satellites, they're obviously, Google's new satellites taking an image of this. This is either really old satellite footage, which isn't likely, or it's just some photo, I don't know how they do it with a plane. So then my mind started going a little bit further. And then I started asking myself lots more questions about satellites, and going, right, if they can track everything, and they've got these, 10,000 satellites in space, that means there have been 10,000 launches. Well, there haven't been 10,000 launches. You can actually go on and if you do the math, because that's what I really care about, you're basically launching a space shuttle twice a month since 1970. That hasn't happened. And then, okay, you know what, we'll add in all the other space agencies in the world, and guess what? Half of them don't even have one launch a year, let alone 2 a month for the entire world to happen. So then I'm starting going, okay, so what's going next? So then with all these missing planes, and we heard about all these missing planes and all these planes disappearing, we've got satellite coverage all over the world apparently, and we can read a newspaper in a park, or watch some dog shit in a park, and we can see that. But apparently we can lose planes like they're going out back in. That's just, to me, is going, okay, there's got to be something else going on here. Either the satellites aren't real, or we just seem to manage to lose planes every 5 minutes. I'm starting to lean towards these satellites are not real. Now, I haven't finished doing all my research yet on it, but that's my big resource page there, is that links to satellites, and going through each of the manufacturers. And I really want to go through and start emailing them, which I've done a couple of.
Well, then I'm not sure what they're throwing up in space. Perhaps silverware or something that, glitters in the sky. But I at least have the unique perspective of being there when the first satellites went up. I remember looking up in the night sky and seeing Echo going over. And at the time, that was unique. There was nothing else up in the sky going overhead. Now, on a clear night, I can go out and see dozens zooming this way and that in the night sky. I'm not sure what sort of explanation there is to why that sort of subterfuge would be going on. I mean, this is a great expenditure of resources, money, and labor to put up some sort of flim-flam. If you've ever been at a launch, this is an awesome amount of special effects to fool what? I'm not sure what kind of point it would make to impress people that I spent nearly $1 billion to throw this rocket into space to fool you that there's actually no space. The logic of that just kind of defeats me there. I guess I'm drifting into the philosophy of why we're being fooled, but I'd like to circle back to, you made a comment, something about the sun and the moon being the same size. And if the sun is a nuclear furnace, I'm not sure if it's only 4,000 miles away and the moon's the same size. The other eclipse, is you can explain, the shadow of the Earth gets in the way, but when the moon crosses in front of the sun, I'm not sure the survivability of the moon going in front of a nuclear furnace that close. I'd be interested in that explanation.
Okay, no problem, because you've actually misquoted me there. What I said is it's not a nuclear furnace, only the chronos coming off it are. That's what I said. But by the way, I completely agree with you on the theatrics of launching a space shuttle in space. I'm not really interested in philosophy and why would they do it, because that takes me away from the actual point of it, is this real? Because the more I try, I can't, talk about the ramblings of a crazy person, or why apparently people want to go and rape small children, but apparently being in the church and being a paedophile is all the rage. I can't talk about what crazy people think and what they do. What I really care about is, wait a second, there's all these satellite manufacturers out there, and I can't find a single launch video of satellites. They won't tell you when this stuff's going on. It's not that top secret. Trust me, I know that. That's what really bothers me. And then why don't I have a picture, even of old stuff? Do you know the only real picture you can ever see is of Sputnik? That's insane. That's absolutely ludicrous to me.
Not what we've been led to believe it is. There's a amateur rocket video online. You can find, probably just put in amateur rocket 100 miles, and you should pull it right up. And they launched this rocket a couple of years ago, and it had 3 cameras, I believe, on it. And it abruptly stopped at about 100 miles. Something stopped it. It launched, it was spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and then it just stopped spinning. It hit something. Not something hard, though. It wasn't like a rock or anything like that. Maybe like a gelatin or something is the only thing I can think of. Like something soft hit it, so it didn't make a sound, but it just stopped and then started to fall back down. Very, very light, very casual. If you go and listen to NASA's launch videos, the old ones back from the 60s, 70s, like the Apollo ones, they announce altitude, speed. You listen 5 minutes or so into the launch, they say that they're now cruising at 100 miles altitude, parallel with the ocean. Now, the quickest way off a ball is a straight line. You don't want to waste all kinds of fuel arcing. And if you look at every single launch, photo, or you see that streak, that it's an arc. They all arc. They launch them, and then they arc, and then they travel parallel with the water. We don't know what happens to them from there. I speculate that they probably landed some of them in Cuba, which was the whole farce of we're enemies with Cuba. No, don't talk to Cuba. Cuba's bad guys. We launched from Florida. They were probably landing the shuttles in Cuba, for all I know. That's a speculation. It's not a fact or anything. But when the shuttle program ended, we're friends with Cuba again. Oh, isn't that funny? That's where I got that theory from. But we don't know what they're doing. A lot of people think they just launch rockets right into the water, pocket the money. We don't know the motivations of these people. I just want to know what's real and what's not real, and the details, that comes after. But what's real, what's not? We have to determine the base things first. You want to add to that, Han?
With you? Yeah, of course. I'm with you 100% there. And I mean, in this day and age, and this is where it gets really, you just want a 24-hour live cam in space. You'd think that would be all the rage, right? With all this money, and let's be fair, we've got cameras on every corner on this damn planet, but yet we don't have one single camera out there taking a 24-hour view of us. Nobody wants to do that. And you'd think that would be a thing. You'd think that in this modern day and age, just someone would strap an iPhone up there, whack it up there, and just, watch the iPhone taking pictures all day long. Well, that doesn't happen. Even on the International Space Station, that feed isn't live. They've shut it down God knows how many times. And even then, they never pan around what we call to look at the fourth wall. That never happens. And we've been talking about this, quite deeply. I mean, literally, I've been kicking over because I can mention his, I might not mention his name. Good family friend of mine used to work for, I've got a couple of friends who work for NASA. One of them actually designed the original space shuttle pewter model that they used in all the wind tunnels. And got drunk one night and he was thrown out at me. This guy's in his late 70s. So remember, there is a massive effort in everybody doing what they're doing. But when you start really digging into what they know, it is very much compartmentalized on pretty much everything, which is huge, another problem. Because you can never find anybody that knows all the answers. You can find this little guy there, you might know that. This little guy over here knows that. That guy over there knows that. But no one can put it all together because there's so much information to learn and so much stuff to understand, especially with rocket launches. Like JJ's talking about the curve of the rocket as it goes. You know what? I can give you 100 mathematical arguments that say that is exactly how you would take off a round ball because you want to match the rotation of the speed of going 1,100 miles an hour. But of course, that means that every aircraft that would ever take off a runway going east to west would also have to have the extra 1,100 miles an hour. And that means it would have to get rid of it when it's landing on the north-south runway. And there's hundreds of north-south runways. So that doesn't happen. So again, it's all those little things that you're looking at that are actually really big and important. And the fact that no one can answer that question because of the compartmentalization, or they don't even think about it because, of course, some of the crazy arguments you hear back about the Earth spinning at 1,100 miles an hour is absolutely just comical when you actually say them out loud. But people don't. They post, they write, and they don't actually take the time to sit there and think and say it out loud a couple of times. The wind has got to go against the spin of the Earth or not. Oh no, the theory of relativity is going to make sure that that's okay, which it doesn't. Oh no, it's gravity. That doesn't make any difference on the wind. So then people don't have the answer. They just don't, and that's what we're searching for. We're searching for these answers. We're out there poking the bears, beating sticks for sticks, and going, right, tell us what the truth is.
Hi, I got a question for you guys from Stormy. Please.
Okay, well, why would they want us to think that? If it did, what possible thing could they benefit from that? And also, how do you explain gravity? Because if it's a flat Earth, it isn't rotating, is it? Are we going upside down on some weird elliptic constantly? How do you explain the fact that we don't just drift off into space off this little rock if we're not in motion?
Okay. Gravity disproves gravity. Reading Newton's law of gravity, that means you believe in the moon fairy and the earth fairy because the lady of the moon and the lady of the earth controls gravity. That is what Sir Isaac Newton said about gravity. The problem with gravity, and it's a very interesting point, but no one really gets into the guts of it. Just like I was explaining there, the earth is spinning at 1,100 miles an hour at the equator. Well, it's obviously spinning less at the north and the south pole if you're on this ball theory you're saying. So what would actually happen is your skeletal structure would be crushed at the north and the south pole because the G-force would be incredible. Because the Earth isn't spinning much there, because it's right next to the pole. That doesn't happen. So gravity is one of these things that's thrown at us because literally it's the magical theory for everything. When something doesn't work, it's because of gravity. And we've been brainwashed and we have to untrain ourselves to go, right, listen, stuff falls because the Earth is flat. And you made a very interesting point about all the other planets around us that we can see around. Okay, well, we haven't seen the other side of them. We haven't even seen the other side of our own moon. So there's not even a picture of that. So is the moon flat? No idea. Is all the planets flat? No idea. Because I can't prove that. I can't sit there, or hypothesize about it, because I can't actually get in a spaceship, go out and point at Saturn and go, right, I've flown around Saturn, I know Saturn is round. We've developed differently. When you start talking about developing the planet, then you start talking about the Big Bang Theory. And then the only problem with the Big Bang Theory and all this other nonsense that they talk about there's major points that they're totally full of shit on. First of all, not one theory ever explains how water came onto the planet. Ever. 2/3 water. No one ever talks about it. Why? Because they can't talk about it because they got no damn clue. So they make up crap and say, right, well, Big Bang Theory. The second point about it is when you talk about the moon and you talk about the Earth, you have two huge problems because when they changed after 1970, of allegedly landing on the moon, they changed their total theory about how everything was evolved on this planet. Because they said that the moon, there's either two ways of this, either came from the Earth, and so the Earth had a little baby rock and then went off and created more rocks and did whatever, or it bounced into the moon, so the moon bounced into the Earth and then settled perfectly in orbit, you know, to 27,000 miles away, whatever it is, just perfect enough to get a solar eclipse. And the reason they deduced this fact is because when they brought back all the moon rocks, the compound of them was exactly the same as the Earth. So based on that theory that all the moon rocks coming back in 1970 were exactly the same composites of the same as what we have on Earth, they decided that these are the only theories that were possible for the moon. The moon is either of the Earth or bounced into the Earth to collect those rocks. And at no point did anyone just say, well, you know what, the rocks are fake. Well, the Queen of England did, where Neil Armstrong gave her a moon rock and she had it tested in Holland and they found out it wasn't a moon rock, it was a piece of wood. And NASA had an egg on their face and it was all over the press. So when you start thinking about all these things and you're going, well, hold on a minute, you're basing an assumption on the moon based on moon rocks that were fake. Now you're going to tell me that gravity works based on assumption, which people don't even understand, is the fact that they weighed the Earth. Well, how did they weigh the Earth exactly? Well, I can tell you how they weighed the Earth. They came up with a mathematical equation and they said that's what the Earth weighs. Then they went out and tried to prove it. And they proved it by using earthquakes and sound waves through stones, okay? And that's how they went along and tried to prove that equation was correct. But here's the problem. When you start off with a fake equation in mathematics, you can always prove it with all sorts of nonsense and just make stuff fit to that equation. So when you start talking about gravity and you start talking about all these other cosmic forces, it really gets interesting because then you've got to start looking at it and going, well, hold on a second, because if gravity is also real and the Earth isn't exactly round, it's kind of egg-shaped, we would wobble on every rotation. But we don't. That doesn't happen. So there's so many things that gravity basically helps gravity helps disprove that the Earth isn't round because people really don't know what it means and how that theory works and how the Earth spins, and it just doesn't work. Sorry if I was rambling there.
I've got a question. Coolhandluke here. Now, I've read your stuff, I've seen some of your videos, and you say this ice wall at the edge of the planet is 30,000 feet tall. How come no one's ever seen it? There's no pictures of it from a balloon or a plane or a boat. You think of being that frickin' high, somebody somewhere would have taken a picture of it or seen it with their own very eyes. Can you explain that, please?
I'm still seeking proof for is the complete circle ice wall. I'm a skeptic on everything. I question the flat earthers stuff all the time. And if they say something it doesn't seem right, I'll call them on it. And 30,000 feet, I mean, I've read 200 feet high, I've read 2 miles high. That's about 10,000 feet. I haven't come across anything 35,000 feet high. But I even think Admiral Byrd himself said 1 to 2 miles high. Some spots of it. That's the only info that I really know of first-hand account. But I don't trust Admiral Byrd, because he's part of the cabal. You know, he's a military man, and the military are not going to tell us anything that's going to lead us in any right directions at all. They're going to tell us one thing to get us thinking this, and they're going to do something else. So whatever the military says, especially on television of all things, the propaganda machine, the most ultimate weapon in the world, I'm writing it off. I want to see it myself. There's pictures of this ice wall online, supposedly parts of it. I don't know if I'm looking at Greenland. I don't know, I'm questioning it. I want to see this ice wall. and so to me, I mean, it's flat. I know it's flat because that's what I see. And plus all of our work, this is what we've come to. So yeah, what is holding the water in? Unless there's a little bit of concave in there at the edge, that it's kind of like a saucer bowl, you know, and then the water sits there. That's a possibility. I personally would like to see this ice wall myself, though, to back, you know, it as a fact. Because right now it's an opinion, it's speculation, it's a theory, and that I'm going by facts and things that I can verify myself.
Yeah, I'm with you there, JJ. You've got to be careful as well, because this is where we come down very different with all the, because we're not flat earthers. Flat earthers are very sort of regimented in their belief systems. They come up with these crazy things and say, oh, it's a 3-mile wall, ice wall, and it's that. Dude, really? Because all I want is a picture of you showing me that, you know, taking some GPS coordinates, and I'm quite happy. But none of that actually exists. I am going there to find out for myself. I want to go there, find it out for myself. That is my plan. That is what I am planning to do in the next 3 to 4 years. Because basically, I've just come down to the fact that everybody lies. If it's on TV, it's fake. Do not believe it. If they tell you if it's up, it's actually down. If they tell you it's left, it is right. And that is what we're seeming to find out about everything, really.
It's curious that you say GPS coordinates if there are no satellites.
I know, right?
So good luck with that.
I know, right? This is
no,
not crazy
I know what you mean. No, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, actually, you know what you're describing is some sort of petri dish that humanity seems to have found itself in, with enough sentience to look around and say we're in a petri dish. So, can you speculate then on why we're in this unique situation, probably unique in all the universe, that all of this is stage props for whatever reason? We have NASA and the military and politicians and God knows who else in collusion into promoting whatever hoodwinking that's going on, that this is spherical. Do you have a theory on why this is so?
Totally. You ready for this? Well, first of all, it's not collusion at all, because I say that if you ever met anybody in government, they're idiots. They're not smart enough to be hiding this. They're not smart enough to be looking at anything. They just don't know, straight up. There isn't this big conspiracy around the world hiding this fact. They just literally do not know. A smart man, William Shakespeare, said, the world is but a stage and we are just merely the players. And he happened to be sitting in the Globe Theatre in London when he said that. That, to me, as soon as I just went, oh God, of course they said it. To me, it's about mind control. It's about really controlling the lemmings on the planet, and that's everybody. So if we can keep the sheep away from the outside, they can't find their way out. God knows what's on the way out. God knows if it's hollow. God knows if there's another puddle, just like us, a couple 100 miles away, developing on the other side. And we keep seeing these ships coming over, everyone thinks they're aliens, and there's some dudes in another puddle, a couple 100,000 miles away down the other side. We've got no idea. And that's the point. When you start really getting into it and you start sort of speculating on the grand design of everything, and okay, so are we sentient smart people, and you understand this, that, and the other, well, you also get through, then you've got to study evolution. And there's a great guy called, I always get his name wrong, it's either Lloyd Pye or Richard Lloyd, who did this whole, completely debunked evolution. They murdered him in 2001, basically because his research was solid, and he didn't know where we came from. He said, listen, well, we didn't evolve from any of this crap. So that makes you look at things again, because this really is the theory of everything. When you're talking about the shape of the Earth, you are talking about every single aspect of everything. Just like you were mentioning earlier, the planets, the Saturn, satellite. You've got to question everything. It is so much work. You really have to look into everything, because everything is a domino, and it starts. If one thing is wrong, everything is wrong. And that's the huge thing here. So to me, it's like this global thing where we're in this mindset that we're pathetic beings on this little dust ball, completely controlled by the government. We've got no way off. We've got no way out. We can't get off this planet. We can't do anything. We can just do what we're told. To me, that's what I think I'm coming down to, that this is just one big mind control project. As soon as they start learning or anything, yeah, we stop that. And that's what I'm really coming down to on the whole thing. I know other people have got sort of religious ideas and all that sort of stuff. No, that's not me. because there's no proof of it. Oh, by the way, ice wall.
I seem to be the only one in Flat Earth one of the only ones in Flat Earth who throws a black hole as another player in this game somewhere. Just putting pieces together, there seems to be a black hole player. I have no idea where this is. It's a black hole. You know, we're not going to see it in what looks like space. But it just, this wobble, I mean, all this stuff, and the wobble, what is that exactly? That's just the sun. It's like a TikTok. It moves this way, equinox, starts coming back, hits the other equinox, starts coming back. It's like a TikTok. And it just travels, it follows its circuit all around, charges up the ground. And people say everything. Well, this is round. Well, there's a circle, there's round, and then there's a sphere. And we see circles. These planets are circles. Like Han said, we don't see the other side of them. We don't see the other side of the moon. Oh, NASA showed us the dark side of the moon. NASA. Like, no, they're done. When you're caught lying so many times, you can't keep going back to these people. Like, they're just going to give you more. Like, and we're asking for it at that point until we call them out on their first lie. Explain this first lie, the moon landings. You know, then they get the soundtracks. Michio Kaku comes out. He talks in a patronizing voice. Oh, well, and then he flashes his degrees, and then it intimidates everybody. Oh, he must know what he's talking about. These guys are Freemason priests. They're actors. They're not scientists. Michio Kaku said that the flags were made of tin foil. Like, you're telling me this guy's not smarter than a fifth grader? Like, come on, really? And they use it's like Han said, that television is mass mind control. It totally is. I'm going to hit the television hard. I'm going to attack the television in the coming months ahead, and videos and whatnot. That's really what's got everybody's mind. It has your mind. It's got you. It owns you. The television is everyone's best friend since a child. When somebody says something that the television's lying, that builds anger in people, and and then you get angry at the other person, calling your best friend a liar. That's kind of what it's like, to me anyway.
Coolhandluke here. I have a question for you real quick. Say the Earth is flat, yet there's tons of pictures from space, from satellites, from the space station, showing the Earth is curved, round, a sphere basically. Yet every time you say it to a flat Earth person, they say all the pictures are fake. How can it be there's hundreds of pictures out there online and on sites, but every single picture is supposedly fake? Thank you.
Okay, I'll start that first because JJ's going to go on for a long time about this. NASA, according to them, have never put a picture of the Earth out from 1970. Okay, that's NASA saying that, not me. So if you've got all these pictures out there since 1970, guess what they are? They've got to be fake. Or is NASA lying? Or which one is it? Either you haven't put out a new picture since 1970 and all these are fake, or it just doesn't add up, you're talking horseshit. So then you start getting into the images themselves. This is where it gets really interesting. Obviously what I know on this, but I'm no expert like JJ, he'll go on for hours on this one. When you start looking at those images, put them side by side, none of the scale is right. Florida is massive in one, small in another. It's not too difficult to debunk it, and I really don't know much about it. I can sit there and spot the same cloud formations 1,000 times on one image. And you're going, right, okay, so now the entire Earth has this exact same cloud image all over it. It just doesn't add up. And then when you really start looking at it, and you start looking at the photos, this is my big thing about the sky being blue. I ask people a million times, why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue? There's a reason for that. Because the reason you're supposed to see that the sky is blue is because you're looking through basically water. We can call it atmosphere, blah, 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 but basically you're looking through water. It's like looking through a swimming pool. When you see the bottom of the swimming pool, there's a different colour when you're looking through the swimming pool. It's the same thing from the outside of the atmosphere, because you've got to look through the atmosphere. You have to look through the same thing as we're looking up at and we're seeing. So now you're looking down at the Earth, it's 2/3 water. So the reflection of the 2/3 water would come up onto that blue atmosphere and make it even bluer again. So when you've got images of mountains and you've got green images and you're doing all that, it's photoshopped because the image wouldn't look like that. It's like sticking something green at the bottom of the swimming pool, taking a picture and seeing it's crystally green. It isn't. I've done it because I thought, no, I'm going to be wrong here. No, sit They've done it.
Jump in here real quick. How do you Photoshop a photo from the 1960s? They had no Photoshop back then.
No, I didn't say any Photoshop from the 1960s. JJ will jump on that. No, anything pre-1970 is the only thing that I know of that could be real. And I'm sure JJ will jump in and hit that.
Sure. When you look at them, they're flat horizon, and the ones that are curved, if you look closely, at least the ones I saw, they look to be like stitched composites. I use an example in one of the threads, like you take a square piece of construction paper and you cut it into strips, and then you glue the pieces back together. You can glue them in a way to make it look round, and you'll notice that you'll see a lot of composite strips, and you can tell it's a composite strip because you see this little crease every so many inches or whatever, and it's a little crease, and those are composite strips that they say that these satellites, they do an orbit, and they just take this strip, and then they strip them together, and then that's how they piece the Earth together. And they'll tell you, NASA will say, oh, this is a composite image made of several strips from runs of satellites, and then they stitch it together. But when people look at these images, they go, oh, that's just one pan, they're far back and they took a picture. No, it's not. There's another video where a NASA graphic designer, he basically says, all the pictures of the Earth that you see, I make. He says it. Maybe somebody can put the video link in the chat. I don't know. It's out there. And yeah, like the image of the Earth we've all seen forever, up until maybe a couple of years ago, was that Apollo 17 image with the, Africa and the clouds there, and that's all we had to work with, really. And when the first flat Earth people started looking for real images of Earth, that's really all they had to work with, that and maybe one or two others. And now there's an explosion of images, the Blue Marble series, very cartoony. I can take apart all of them. The shading is wrong. Like Hans said, you're looking through water vapor, the atmosphere, and they're pulling up reds, crisp reds and crisp greens, and you look through 2 miles of atmosphere and at a mountain, and that's already becoming like dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. The further the objects are away, it's dimmer. And that's only a couple of miles. You're looking through the whole 100 miles of atmosphere, and crystal, no, the shading's wrong. Artists should tear those apart, and one did. Matthew Boylan. He was a graphic artist for NASA. He's the guy that started all this, probably 3 years ago maybe, started doing stand-up, talking about, is this a painting or is this real? Is this a painting or is this real? And the audience really had no idea. He said, no, it's painting. I did it myself. And he's showing pictures of planets, and he came at it, an artist came at it, and that's, those are the people that are going to be able to spot the fakers, are the artists. And he's absolutely right. The shading's wrong, the light's wrong, it's all wrong. Just put in ISS from space, or Earth from ISS into Google. Go to Google Images, ISS, Earth, from space. None of the arcs, the arc of the Earth, the curvature, they're all different in every shot. Now this ISS is only, it's 250 miles up, and it only varies slightly. They hit their boosters or whatever to adjust altitude, but just that small adjustment of altitude seems to adjust this curvature, this arc angle, quite a bit. They can't even get their arc angle right in every shot. It really shouldn't even be noticeable. But just look at all the ISS pictures. Oh, some are fisheye. Now, well, who's going outside to change the lens? I mean, and Jeranism, he has a channel, Globebusters. They do the ISS every week. He's totally destroyed the ISS. He's the guy to go to for ISS debunkery. Globebusters YouTube channel. That's the guy to do it for that. So yeah, like Hans said, I could just talk for hours about this.
Maybe one thing real quick
To
before
me,
we
though,
move on. Okay, let's say all the photographs from the space are fake, from the satellites or from NASA. What about the weather balloons, hot air balloons? How do you explain that then?
Balloons that are not GoPro lenses, they show a flat horizon. I've looked through hundreds and hundreds, all I could find really, and a lot of them are GoPro, so they're going to have that wide-angle fisheye, so the Earth curvature goes concave, flat, convex, yeah, and that leaves it all like, well, we don't know for sure because it's all free, you know, with those lenses, which is, you know, this year, next year, people will be launching more balloons with just regular lenses so we can get a better, you know, perception of this with these GoPro lenses where we can't determine if it's curvature, if it's flat, because it bounces all the time. And a lot of the weather balloons are GoPro. I have seen a couple that aren't, and like the old 1950s images, they do appear flat, except when they're stitching them together, and then they do this composite. Oh, look, it's round in black and white. But most of the black and whites, you see them flat.
Well, there's a little bit more to it than that as well, in my sort of perspective, is what happens when you haven't gone through all this research, you come up with a totally rational and reasonable response. Like, okay, what about all the weather balloons that are going up? Obviously, they've got pictures. Well, great, show me some. Because I haven't seen them. Just show them to me. I'd love to see them. You know, people come up with brilliant rational responses, and I love it, but there's no evidence to back it up. So then it's just, you know, to me, it's just hearsay. All I want to do is look at the evidence. Show us the evidence. I can come up with 100,000 reasons why the Earth is round. Easy. There's just no evidence to back up a word I say. But there isn't evidence to back up that there isn't a curvature, that these, you know, pictures that don't exist, and there should be. If we are literally living on this ball, don't you think we should have 1 million pictures from it by now? You know, even when Richard Branson tried around the world in his hot air balloons.
And I can't physically go to the perimeter and leave. If I've got a 100-mile barrier that I can't go up and out and leave, I'm going to say, really, what's the point of life then? I mean, if we're in the Petri dish, you can't escape the Petri dish. And if you did, then the laws of physics are obviously not what we're assuming them to be, and probably uninhabitable. So what is the point then of even us knowing this? If every person on Earth knew, okay, we're in a flat bowl, what is going to be what is going to be the point? Who put us in this bowl? Why are we in the bowl? This is you know, this is what you're not touching on, and this is what would really be, what's the meaning behind you pursuing this line of inquiry, other than to find out, okay, yeah, we're in the Petri dish, but what is it then?
Okay, well, for me, because this is what I don't like to do. I don't like to speculate. I don't like to sort of you know, throw out ideas that I can't back up with a thing. I mean, if you talk to a lot of flat earthers, they'll say we're in a dome and all that sort of stuff. But to me, that is the question you just asked is the only reason I'm interested in any of this, because there is going to be an answer. I might not find it, but somebody else might, just because we're doing that. Why are we in this Petri dish? Where the hell is the exit point? Can we dig down and get out? If we can't go left and we can't go right, we can't go up, can we go down? Remember, we've only dug down 8 miles. Okay, so we've only got, you know, another 7,000, oh, sorry, what's that, 7 miles? No. Yeah, 8 miles down. So basically, I mean, we've got so much left to explore, and it's almost to the point where we believe that we know everything on this planet and we no longer need to explore, because you know what, Google's got it. They've got the answers for us, and they just don't. So I want to explore those, I want to go try to find out, and I think the answers are either in the North Pole or the South Pole. That's my opinion, you know, that's where I think they are, and I'm going there. I want to go off exploring. You know, that's exactly what I'm going to do, and hopefully I'll find some answers there. There may even be an entrance to a hollow earth, and I could find out that maybe we're in a 2-story building, and there's a garage and I can go hang out in their basement, and it's a really cool man cave. I got no idea, but I'm going to go look for it.
We have a question from the room, Itosa. Why is there a day and night if it's a flat plane? How do we have weeks, months, years on a flat plane? Oh, good question.
It's the system that we use to count. It's how many hours does it take for the sun to come back around to the same spot that it was at. And every day it moves a little bit more and a little bit more. And months, days, and years, that's just the system we come up with. And it doesn't seem like it was the original one, the Gregorian calendar. You know, how does somebody just decide, well, we're just going to change the amount of days and months and hours? I mean, it should be a set thing. And it's been changed a few times. And to me, that seems a little off. Like which one is it? I've heard the 28 days for 13 months was one. I mean, it's just what we're using to basically count, the circle rotations of these objects.
Yeah, but Jibby,
Sorry,
how do you have day and night?
that's not
versus
answering the
flat
question.
stuff?
Yeah, that's not answering the question. I'm actually trying to find a link right here while we're doing it because I've got it saved on a different device about calendars. Now, here's what it gets interesting because I haven't done a lot of research on this. I've only skimmed the surface on how days and nights and stuff work. Because this is my big problem with... Sorry, I keep using the button as I'm trying to do two things at once here. So if the Earth is turning and the sun is always rising on the east to the west, okay? If you've got a coffee cup with you right now, put that facing the wall or whatever you want, and that's the east, and that's where the sun rises. When you turn that 360 degrees for a day, it's still always pointing that wall. As it goes around, whatever thing you put in between the wall and that cup, which is the sun, which is that light source, you will get to the other side of that, and that east is still pointing at the wall. The sunrise would change 6 months in, and it would be the west is now rising. Now what they'll say is, oh, you know what, the solar day is 23 hours, 54 minutes and 27 seconds, I think it is. And that means it turns 1 extra degree. It doesn't make any difference about the time frame. It's got absolutely no relevance whatsoever when the sun comes up and the sun goes down. What would end up happening is the sun would actually start rising in the west and not the east. We don't see that. It doesn't matter what time the sun comes up. That's what will happen on a spherical model. And I've done this a billion times. I get 3 pints in the pub every time when I sit down and go, right, the Earth's flat, we don't go around the sun. I sit there with a beer, I said, right, that's the sun, there's that beer match the Earth, tear off a corner, that's east. Make that go around that, and make east always stay facing the sun. You can't do it. You can sit there and put it on the 23.4 degree tilt. Remember, it's the 23.4 degree tilt minus 90. Anyone got the math quickly? That means it's a 66.6 degree tilt, and no one's questioning it, right? It was, yeah, of course we're on this tilt. And I'll put up some of those links in a second to show, how it moves away. But the original question was, how does that work on the flat Earth, right? How do days and nights work with the moon? I couldn't wrap my head around this for the longest time. I heard people talk about it, and the only thing that you can actually do is, I'll put up a link, it's about a 2.5 hour flat Earth thing. This guy is Sanson Benici, I don't know how to say his name, and he has a very, very good graphic of shows of how it works, where basically it goes to the Tropic of Cancer, to the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's what the sun does, is it moves around, and basically the moon follows it. It looks like the yin and yang symbol, where the moon is one side and the sun is the other as it goes around, and it goes on rails, it goes all the way up to the top, and then it winds itself, it goes all the way back down, down again. And it's very interesting. When you visualize it and you can see it, it makes sense. But me sitting there trying to talk and explain it to you and say, right, the sun goes, imagine it starting on the equator and going up towards what you think would be the North Pole, and then all the way back down to where you think is the South Pole, and then all the way back up again, but it doesn't quite get up to the North Pole, it doesn't quite go down to the South Pole. It's very hard to visualize that. So until you see the computer graphic and how it works, then you go, oh, right, now I understand what it's supposed to do. Because remember, on a spherical model, well, it would change where the sun rises, and that doesn't happen.
Love it. My question for both of you is going to be a good one, probably a long one for you for the answer, obviously. Let's say the Earth really is flat, okay? And we find out it's flat. Why are they lying to us about it? For the longest time, they've been telling us the Earth is a sphere, okay? Why would they lie about it? Spend so much time and money from NASA and the government and our school system to lie about it. What is the reasoning behind this?
To me, as I say, you're trying to understand the rationality of a crazy person, which is very difficult. But I honestly believe, again, it comes down to the simple fact of mind control. You just do what you're told. And that's it. You go to school, which isn't school, it's an indoctrination center. If you do not go to your indoctrination center and you miss a day, they will hunt you down, find you, lock up your parents, and persecute you for not going and learning the indoctrination rules of how you must live on this flat plane. Think about that for a second. A kid is in that much trouble if you don't, do what you're told. So basically, it's like your mind is fractured and you're beaten to death about the rules and regulations before we set you out into the world. So it's our world, we control it, we're in charge, and all you do is exactly what we tell you to. Yeah, you've got some freedom, you can run around and do some stuff, but you really don't have freedom. Because anything you do is based on a license, based on rules, based on everything. The monetary system and everything. This is just total and utter mastering the human domain. That's what this really comes down to. I'm sure JJ's got a different point.
Yeah, we're a farm, we're a business, we're a prison, and you tell everybody in the prison they're on a ball and you can't get off unless you're you're in the club. You got to be in the club, you got to be one of us, and that's the only way you can see anything cool or do anything cool. You're just stuck on this ball. Go work 40 to 80 hours a week, pay your taxes, and spit out some kids, and then enjoy your retirement of 1 year before they drain all of your assets from healthcare treatments, because you'll die of cancer. It's about a 1 in 2 chance, I think we're up to now, and it's just getting worse and worse. Tell people they're on a flat plane. First thing they're going to do is try to find the edge and get the hell out of here. So you tell them they're on a ball, nobody's going to look. They're going to stay there. They're just going to keep doing their thing. And the television's going to keep telling you how stupid you are and how smart these people are in these costumes. And it's programming. You see the costume, everything they say is true to you. It's the white coat, it's the suit, the politician. It's a game. It's a show. It's just a show. It's a farm. And each country is different farms. All the space agencies are working together, all of them. They're all doing. China, I always say China is the one to pick apart the easiest. They use Pokemon Earth. I mean, it's awful, awful. China, they crack me up, all of them. Their rocket launches, it looks like a toy model. It's sitting there resting on the exhaust. Like, that's the only thing holding up this rocket in some of these. Most people don't go through these things, though. And that's why they don't question it, or they laugh at the people who do. But I encourage people, go through China footage. Look at it with a critical eye. Just look at everything with a critical eye, because now we've brought this to your attention. So now look for these things. When NASA's spitting out 5 breaking news stories a day now. Oh, look, we got more high-definition pictures of Pluto that came in through all the radiation, solar radiation, and the electromagnetic charged particles in the asteroid belt, and none of that affected the signal. I mean, I couldn't even download a JPEG off AOL with dial-up without half of it being destroyed somehow. These guys are getting like 1 kilobyte a minute or something coming in of high-definition images, which would probably take about a month for the thing to download in the crisp, clear quality that we see. It's just absurd. I mean, I really can't. I'm losing my train of thought here, because I'll just go down these random sidetracks here.
Yeah, I'm with
so
you.
I don't know.
My favorite thing about that Pluto probe is the fact that it goes through the Kuiper Belt, which is allegedly 1.9 billion miles of asteroids. Just clarify that. That's a B with a billion, right? Actually, technically, it's a milliard, not a billion, but that's something completely different. More interesting with that, did they have the best Space Invaders pilot in the entire world to fly through 1.9 billion miles of asteroids and not lose one single life? Because I'll tell you right now, that didn't happen. The fact that you think that you can fly through 1.9 billion miles of asteroids and the asteroids is totally fine. No, yeah, that's easy. That's on a Tuesday. When I was emailing NASA, they basically will not answer anything. I asked them, what was the calculations that they used to slot that through the Kuiper Belt? Obviously, you didn't fly it from straight across A to B. There's obviously going to be a gap that you found or something for the 1.9 billion miles. Never an answer. Never ever an answer. All they'll ever do is link you to a most frequently questioned answers about the Pluto probe. Total rubbish. I mean, the fact that people absolutely don't even stop and think. They can't even get a cell phone signal in their house, but yet NASA can pick up a signal 4.3 billion miles away through all the metals in the asteroid field that are allegedly there, and everybody's hunky-dory and fine with it. Like, yeah, that's real. Do you want some more money, NASA? Maybe you can start another project. It's just hilarious.
Well, once again, I guess I got to cycle back to the why of things. I mean, no, we can't answer the why of why we're here on a global planet. So I guess we can't answer the why of why we're on a flat planet, except that the obvious engineered, I don't know how to explain it, but the engineered aspect of a flat Earth, why that wouldn't bother everyone. All right. I mean, yes, we're flim-flam, but like you say, okay, I can show these charts and these diagrams and see it's flat. So you wake up a couple million people to the fact that it's flat, and we all go marching off to Antarctica and tear down the wall, or we all dig through to the whatever's on the other side of this flat whatever. Why is it then that we're not doing that? I mean, why did it take all these centuries until now for us to say, hey, this is flat, this is screwy? Why is this flat? Who put us on this flat thing? I mean, yeah, I know you said you refuse to speculate, but there's got to be some sort of logical chain of reasoning of why it would be flat. This is what seems to be absent from your whole philosophy. It's like we were inserted right into this scenario, and now we found this scenario, and now we want to dig up the facts about it. It just seems strange and artificial.
Well, no, I'm with you on that, but remember, all the way through history, they didn't agree that the Earth was round. All the way through the 1800s and 1900s, there's lawsuits with people still saying that the Earth is flat and you're full of shit. But people just haven't researched that. There's a stretch of 6 miles of canal in the UK that is dead flat, perfectly level, and there's so many lawsuits where people are arguing the Earth is round and the Earth is flat, and in this canal with flags, and you can see it down there with telescopes over the 6 miles. You can research it till you're blue in the face, and literally there's a million different sides to the story. You'll find one guy sued another guy because it was flat, then the other guy sued him because it was round, and then it just goes on and on and on in this impetuous cycle because, quite frankly, whoever had the best attorney seemed to win those cases. But it really is a fundamental question. Okay, so what is it then? Because that's what you're really asking. What is it? Why are we here? And who's put us here? Well, we don't know those answers. It's just like when Truman, in the Truman Show, first started trying to get out the dome. He didn't know anything about what was outside of it, why he was there, who put him there. But as soon as he started looking, he found those answers. So that's what we're doing. We're looking. We're going to find those answers. Because we're literally, think about the wealth of knowledge and information that we've had to bloody well read to get to this point in the first place. You know, in the next year or so, I'm sure we'll keep sifting through all this crap, and we'll be further on down the rabbit hole, and we'll be at a point where, you know what, now we've got a solid understanding of what's put us here. Did something put us here? Is it another, you know, it could be, let's make up a word they did called the Anunnaki that stuck us here, and we're some ants that they're playing with. Got no idea. But if we don't start looking and digging, we're not going to find those answers, and I think this is the path that is going to find those answers.
Yeah, but I have the feeling that if it's manipulated NASA, if it's manipulated the governments, it's manipulated the military and the powers that be and all of that, you know you're not going to get very far. If you have the weight of powers that be and all the wealth and of all the nations that are controlling this sort of knowledge, I can't see you basically fighting against the system in any kind of successful way. If this has been engineered to the fact that, you know, we've got the Earth the way that it is, it seems to me that there's whatever has the power to make a flat Earth has got the power to suppress anybody that tries to defeat the whole purpose of it being there.
Yeah, but you forget one important thing. I'm not trying to get the word out. I really couldn't give a rat's ass. I'm not trying to have a YouTube channel and get subscribers or give a shit about any of this. I'm finding this out for my own personal selfish goals. I couldn't give a crap if everybody wants to know the Earth is flat, round, hexagonal, and make babies go over here watch the TV. Dude, I'm going to Antarctica. You're welcome to come with me or not. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to go look for some secrets. If that means I have to steal a plane and fly across the globe, I'll steal a plane and fly across the globe. I've got no problem with that. If the powers that be want to stop me, go ahead. I'm telling them I'm coming. I'm letting them know what I'm doing. I publish it all the time. You know, I have no problem doing any of that. the main reason why I'm worrying, sort of holding back right now, is because I don't have any pilot's license. I don't know how to fly the plane I'm going to steal. As soon as I do, I'm off. I couldn't care less. I've got 2 Pacific points in Antarctica that I'm going to go straight after, because that's where the Hercules C-130s picked up a whole bunch of people after being away. They were down there for like 2 weeks, and there's so many weird and crazy stories about those people. So I'm 100% with you. I'm not going to get the word out. The system isn't going to crash because a couple of guys, talk about it and do some stuff. That isn't my goal and objective. Couldn't care less, because that's just fighting a stupid war. Now, I do have a plan to try and tear that entire system down. I call it Mega Plan 1. That is kind of comical. It's I don't know if you've ever seen the Yes Men videos and what they do. It's very much on that sort of lies, where basically you play the game, you lie along with them, and you pull the rug from underneath them. And but I mean, at the end of the day, they'll just wipe you off with some kooky hoaxer anyway. So is it really worth it? I don't know. I'd rather stick to my original plan and go steal a plane and fly across Antarctica.
And then Han wants to hit Antarctica. I want to hit the North Pole. I think that's where the party's at. The North Star, Polaris, something's going on with Polaris. That's a player in this game. Mount Meru, that's the mountain that has been named, I guess. That's at the Flat Earth. Flat Earth and Hollow Earth say there's a hole there. Flat Earth says there's a mountain that comes out of this hole, and oceans kind of pour into it from all these different channels. Like there's about 4 islands or so all around this hole. There's a mountain in the middle that goes up past the clouds, according to reports. Now, of course, we can't verify any of this until we get there. So all we have to go by is words on paper, and that is never proof to me. So I want to see something visual. Han wants to, escape that way. I think there's probably a way out, maybe through the hole, up or down in the middle. There's something going on at the center, and I think we're going to get a lot of our answers by seeing what is going on with this North Magnetic Pole, the anomalies there, what's really there. Like, I want to see what's there. I think it'll answer all our questions. And I think that might be a way out. But yeah, I think that's our goal is, when we realize it's flat, it's kind of like, yeah, we're in a prison. We need to get out of here and find a way out. Han wants to just, he wants to go himself. I want to grab as many people as I can, and get out of here. Because this place, unless you're wealthy and, have all the right stuff, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, the only reason you want to grab people is so when they shoot at you, they hit the other people first. I'm just saying that's the only reason to do that. But no, honestly, it's so sort of weird and surreal when you actually come to the realization that everything you've ever been taught is a total, genuine joke. And the fact that, I have a couple of degrees. I'm actually getting another one just to try to understand the lies, because my assumptions of how the world actually functions is nothing to do with actual science. They just literally make up everything, which gets embarrassing to some point. And so after you get to that point, do you want to keep researching that and keep trying to find more holes to prove yourself? Because you already know it's right. At that point, you're just fighting down this idiot path of knowing more knowledge of that rather than being wrong. Great. Or go on an adventure and try to get off this planet. Because let's be quite frankly, most people don't do anything with their lives. Most people go and just do their regular job and do their regular thing and they do the thing. I'm not that guy. I've got a million stories to tell and I'm going to have a million more after the end of this. I could get there and find out that it isn't flat. It is this weird thing that is totally wrong and this is how it is. But I'm still going to go look and going to find out.
Hi, Coolhandluke here again. We have a question from the audience, from Flat. Flat, go ahead.
Well, I don't think that went according to plan.
We have another question from Gymnasium. Gymnasium, go ahead, please. Sorry about that.
Well, hopefully you're not getting that interference from me. I apologize because I came in late, so I don't know if this has been covered. my question is, I have a couple. The first one is the other planets, you know, our solar system. Is there anything out there that is spherical? The other question is this. Have you guys heard of Gary McKinnon? And if so, does he play into your equation, your opinions, or anything for that matter?
Who hacked NASA back in the 90s by backdooring their site, and supposedly he saw a list of other terrestrial astronauts, I believe. And well, the way I see him, I did like his info at first, but I see him like WikiLeaks, like all of these official whistleblowers that television will tell you are real. Gary McKinnon is not on the TV though, so that does give him a little bit of credibility with me. But Julian Assange or Edward Snowden, you telling me these guys, these governments can't find these people? They really can't. These whistleblowers. The news is going to tell us, WikiLeaks said this. Like, come on, they own the news. Like, those are puppet whistleblowers. The Gary McKinnon, I guess he must be too. But then again, like, what is NASA doing besides faking the ball and all the space stuff? Maybe they are working with other terrestrials. Maybe they are. We don't know. Matt Boylan, the artist who came out with the flat Earth stuff and the paintings, he thinks that we're just a melted puddle, basically, in this big sheet of ice, and that there are other suns and other melted puddles in different areas. That's one of the models, you know, infinite plane with melted puddles and stars in those melted puddles with different continents and different people. And you know, until we know either way, it is a possibility. So maybe Gary McKinnon was referring to those things, but NASA, I mean, I really don't think NASA would have that kind of stuff on their computers, because NASA seems to be mostly set up for the public and for the show. I think that stuff would be probably on some other system, or not even in a system, to even risk that stuff being exposed. That's what I would do if I was, you know, hoarding a secret of that magnitude. I wouldn't leave it on my open system that anybody could backdoor. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, his other question was about the actual planets themselves. Now, it's interesting when you get into the planets, and because no one's been. So when no one's been, everything at that point is speculative. Okay, and actually Luke mentioned something earlier when he was interviewing President Eisenhower's granddaughter, and she'll talk about the jump rooms and all that sort of stuff, jumping to Mars. How do we know that was Mars? How do you know you weren't jumping into the hollow Earth or another part of it? Because they don't know. But we assume it is because, but when you start looking at all of that, I think the more important question about going up, and what are these other planets and all these other, circles, because not spheres, because you can't see the other sides of them all, is why aren't we in space? The Jetsons, we should have had hotels and all sorts of nonsense floating around this mud ball that we're supposed to be on. That didn't happen because, wait, you can't. If you go through the evolution of all aircraft, you get to a point, the Blackbird SR-71, and then everything seems to stop. And it gets really interesting at that point, because you look at the U-2 spy planes and the Blackbird SR-71 are high altitude planes. And then all of a sudden, everything switches from high altitude planes to stealth fighters and stealth bombers, and they bring a low level altitude again. And you're going, then you have to really ask yourself, is it this, they trying to keep us away from the atmosphere now? Because surely, should we be like, when we get up to that point of Blackbird SR-71s going at 75,000, feet, we shouldn't then exit concept B to push it and have an airplane that travels into space and keep moving forward and upwards and upwards and upwards. Well, that didn't happen, did it? So my real question is, and I'm really looking at this in a whole new eyes over the last couple of years, is I just don't think there is because nothing adds up. If there was planets that we could travel to and all that crap, we would at least have something in space. because there'd be a damn advertisement up there. There'd be a billboard with bloody Google stamped on it, and they'd be floating around the earth going, look, this is our advertisement, and you can see Google on a damn billboard in space. It's not there.
Well, I find a little bit of common ground with what both of you are talking about, because I do try to keep an open mind. However, a couple things. Number one, responding quickly to what you just said regarding the SR-71 and where we're at with aerospace tech. Hey, the point is they don't want us, they as in the establishment, the powers that be, however you want to define them, there's no way they want us to know the tech that they have. And the reason that you don't see the advancements, like Dr. Paul Laviolette has talked about with gravitic electricity and things of that nature, is because old tech continues to make money. You're still going to have petroleum usage as long as they can squeeze money and energy out of us via our labor trading for their antiquated energy. And with regard to space travel and what we were talking about Gary McKinnon just a few seconds ago, that Gary McKinnon stumbled not on just things that maybe NASA may have had, but that he stumbled upon what the U.S. Navy had cataloged, that actual names of vessels, staffing, things of that nature. Gary McKinnon, what he stumbled upon was a total game changer for humanity. And the fact that both the U.S. President and the Prime Minister were asked about Gary McKinnon, they both knew who he is, and during a press conference. And there's no doubt that and because he stays in the sunlight, he's alive. I don't know if he's embellished with anything, but to think that our government doesn't have backdoors into their computer systems and into their various different databases, come on now. We've seen what WikiLeaks have done. We've seen what a motivated person, Chelsea Manning, could do with the CD-ROMs and getting in and writing all sorts of data to disks. So listen, they're human just like us. They're fallible. There's going to be ways to get through and to extract data, and that's some people motivated enough have been able to do that. But it's still, I still want to know, there's one other question, and then I'm going to shut up. The moon. China seems to be taking a very different position, and you guys may have already covered this, but China seems to be kind of going on their own. And the latest thing is that they're going to be traveling to the dark side of the moon. And this is something that we've never been privy to. I really wonder what you guys think of the moon, its positioning, if indeed it is flat, is it spherical? Makes me think of Phobos too, around Mars. And anyways, all right, I'll shut up.
Oh no, mate, that's fine. You keep talking, but I do want to jump on about tech of the U.S. Industrial complex and stuff, because of who I am and who my family is and who my father is. He's run every single special ops in the entire world. Okay, and we have massive arguments about all this stuff all the time. When you're talking about real high-tech stuff, my friends still currently are in those units. It doesn't exist. We're made to believe it does, but it doesn't. These guys are on the cutting edge. These are the people that everyone talks about. Okay, from like the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, SAS, or SBS. These are MI5 and MI6 people. I know these personally. I grew up with these people. This technology isn't there. It's a myth. We're made to believe it is because it keeps pumping in, like you say, it makes the money, it makes the money, it makes the money. If there was anyone else out there with a game changer, a Stephen Greer, or anyone with that, sooner or later, by now, it would have accidentally fumbled out. All these people would have been knocked off. Stephen Greer isn't, Gary McKinley, he isn't. So to me, it's on TV, it's just a part of the show. Anything that you see on TV, as far as I'm concerned, is just a part of the show to make you believe that, you know what, these people can hack our government and we can do this and that and the other. Well, I know the actual where the data storage is in Tallahassee and in Tampa Bay. You can't hack them. It can't be done. I actually know how those systems work. We used to have the FBI come around our house when we were up in Pax River, because immediately, and this was back in the 80s, immediately as soon as we did something, they came around knocking on the door. So when you go through all of this stuff, for me, I'm just like going, I just know too much to get into that mindset or that hearsay. I'll let JJ talk about the moon and how it's see-through and hollow. You can see stars behind it.
I really don't know how to explain that. There are more and more videos popping up online of people photographing stars through the dark side of the moon. I came at Flat Earth. The Flat Earth Clues talked about a dome. So I looked for evidence of this, and I've always thought the moon, when it's partial moon or while it's still blue skies and you see the moon during the phase, I always thought like something's missing here. It doesn't look right. Like we should see the circle complete. We see a half moon at dusk or dawn, and it just looked like it reminded me of my dashboard lights off my windshield. It's a light reflecting off glass, I thought. And so I did some flat earth experiments with a light against a pane of glass, and I duplicated the moon phases perfectly just using a light and glass. But and that would explain a dome, and the moon's a reflection. Where is the moon then? We don't know. That's another thing. So there's a lot of theories out there, but stars through the moon. There are videos where he'll just sit there and hold the camera, and then as the moon traverses, he'll zoom in and show here's this star, here's that star, and you saw the stars on one side and the moon on the other side. And as the moon passed by the stars, now that the stars are being seen through the dark side, how is that possible? That's some kind of reflection or something. I don't know. And all we see are circles. We see lots and lots of circles. We don't see the other sides of them. We don't get a panoramic view of these things. We see circles, and that's the best we can work with. And that's all I'm going to work with, is what I can see and verify. I'm not going by cartoons anymore. I'm not going by anything television's telling me. I want civilian experiments, civilian results, non-government, non-tainted results, something I can verify, something I can do myself. So if somebody tells me, hey, this, that, go look at stars through the moon, I'm going to try to see stars through the moon. That's how we should all be tackling this stuff, and not going by, well, this guy said 1,000 years ago in this book, and it's why I don't use the Bible in any of this either. I want something that you can sink your teeth into, something you can touch, something you can see. And with the moon, there's so many questions. We're still going through them all, and all the new evidence, like stars to the dark side.
JJ, can I jump in there as well? Because he was actually asking also about how China comes into play here. Well, I think China's also basically saying it's a big fuck you to the United States, saying, well, we know you didn't go to the moon. And they're playing that game of, we're going to tell everybody that you didn't go to the moon. Now, in 2011, they started this with their fake moon landings that China did. When like you were saying earlier, you can actually go on and see it was some of the fakest moon nuts you can ever imagine. And that's one of the biggest reasons that people didn't really catch it, some people did, is they said they were actually going to go to whatever it's called, the Eagle's Nest, or whatever that point, Sea of Tranquility, or wherever they landed, and that's exactly where they are going to land. That's what China said. So immediately in 2011, the US Congress put a no-fly zone around the moon, which must have been the most hilarious thing ever, because it was passed. The fact that they passed a no-fly zone around the Sea of Tranquility makes you just go, wait, what the hell is going on? So with all these people sitting around congressmen and senators, and someone goes, yeah, by the way, we need a no-fly zone around the moon. And someone should have just asked, well, who's flying around the moon? No one asked that. They was like, no, okay, we're all going to pass that. No one questions it. They just go, right, brilliant. And it's gone. But that's because I think China is playing this little mind game of going, well, we're going to tell you, we're going to tell you. Now, of course, I don't actually think there's a dark side of the moon. Am I thinking that the moon is a hologram? Don't know. That's crazy because there's no evidence for it. Is the dark night satellite projecting this hologramic image up there? Don't know. I do know that all the moon rocks are fake. I know we didn't land on it. That's all my side that I do know. But I also think China are going to say that we're going to go to the dark side of the moon first, so they can claim it and say, hey, we've already been to the dark side of the moon. No, this is what it looks like. No, we're the guys. No, we know exactly where the helium-3 is. No, we've got all this stuff under control. And I think that's what China's game is. I think they're trying to basically wrap their dick around the US and go, ours is bigger than yours. Look what we've done. And that's what I think their total game is.
Hi, Coolhandluke here again. We have a question from the audience again. Hi, Tulsa. How do radio waves work on a flat Earth? And my question, to back that up, is how does a GPS system work on a flat Earth? Because you have to have the GPS system surrounding the Earth, basically, and orbiting the Earth for it to work. Thank you.
GPS, in one of the K-Talk videos, I think it was Jeranism. And basically, you can find all this information online yourself. Underground cables, underwater cables that go, continent to continent, tower to tower. Back this video I always post, it's from 1941 or 42, I think, and it explains global communication, coaxial cables, all that stuff, and how we had global communication before these satellites even allegedly existed in space. We could communicate with England and shortwave radio. They've been able to do it, and that's still how we do it today. I mean, if you had a cell phone back in the early 2000s, you definitely experienced drop calls. That was a major thing we all were experiencing, and then these towers started going up like crazy. All of a sudden, no drop calls. It's all handled by calls. GPS, ground positioning system, or tower to tower triangulation. They'll tell you that in their own information. Basically grab 3 different towers around you, and then they triangulate your location. And the flights. If you go to Flight Tracker or these other websites, you will see that once a plane gets a certain distance away from land, it drops right off. You can't track it anymore, which adds to the validity that it's all based on ground triangulation. Why are these planes vanishing off the tracking? There's no towers in the middle of the ocean, and there's no satellites. I mean, if there were satellites, we would see all the planes all over the ocean. But you go to one of these sites, you're going to see clusters of planes just on land, and maybe a few just a little bit farther away from the land, but then they drop right off the radar. And a lot of the flat Earth people talk about that too. I don't know if Han wants to expand on that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was looking at the flight tracker stuff. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed, I've been putting loads and loads of links down for all the information we've been talking about as we've been going for you to look at and go through. Now, to me with all this satellite stuff is, okay, the GPS and all this is something I've just recently, as I said, just started looking into. I put up my satellite manufacturer up there, which is a great read to go through and go through all of that. One of my buddies, Delta Force guy, he actually works on satellite hubs, and I've actually posed him this question. So I'm going to find out the real answer, because there's certain areas that are uplink towers, and he works in those uplink towers. So I'm actually going to find this out, because it bothers the hell out of me. I'm like, okay, so what's the deal here? Tell me exactly how that upload system works. How is that doing? What is it doing, and where's it sending it to? Because I've got another little program called an Orbitron, which shows me every satellite on that's supposed to be there, and I can go around and track it and do all sorts of stuff, just like I can with the ISS. Problem is, I don't actually need them, as JJ said. You can still just do that with a cell phone tower and triangulation. So we've got satellite uplink towers because my mate works down there. So what is that? What is that going to, and what is that really doing? And of course, he just assumes, as soon as that of course that is. That's what he's told it is. Now he's going to look at it with a critical eye, and hopefully I can find out a really good answer for that in the next couple of months, and just go, right, no, this is actually what an uplink tower is inside. This is actually where it's sending the information to. This is actually where it's going. Because if we had those satellites up there, when you had satellite TV, you would really want to point your dish straight up in the air, but you don't. You point it off into a direction of a tower, not up into the satellite, which is kind of even weirder. But again, I'm looking to verify that. That is my thing right now. I'm trying to verify the satellite thing, because to me, they can still be up there. just because the Earth is a different shape has got nothing to do with where those satellites are or aren't there. If those satellites are there, they can still go around just the same as the sun and the moon does on this, flat plane. It doesn't change anything of any shape of the Earth. That doesn't actually, it isn't a proof or a disproof, because they both still work the same. Plato once said, you never do work on another man's work, but he said it much more eloquently, being obviously Plato. And one of the most important things you find when you start going through this, there are lots of debunkable things. For instance, like, it doesn't matter about satellites, because it doesn't prove one way or the other if it's the shape of anything. I'm going to look at it because I want to know the answer to it, but it's irrelevant. Like, if you go back and they talk about 2,000 years ago in Egypt, where they were putting sticks in the ground to measure the shadows and decide how the curvature of the Earth was and all that sort of nonsense. Well, it's actually wrong, because people don't know how the experiment works. It actually proves both models, because people don't study it.
Hold on a
So you
second,
can't
everybody.
use that.
1 second.
Oh, yes, sorry, mate.
Okay, your tower theory explains everything on land perfectly, okay, right? With the GPS on the middle of the ocean, there's no tower that's going to reach that. If you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, middle of the Atlantic Ocean, Indian or whatever, Arctic Ocean, your tower or signal will not reach that far. And GPS, global positioning satellites, will reach that far. So that kind of blows your theory out of the water a little bit, though. How is that signal getting to the middle of the ocean for GPS if the satellites don't exist?
Would handle that one. When you're looking for tracking the planes over the ocean, good luck, because I can't find sites that are tracking these over, like, the middle of the ocean. It just drops right off. They're obviously doing radio communications with each other, but as far as a GPS type of plane tracker software that a civilian can look at and see. Now they all drop off. I've seen it on several sites. They drop off as soon as they get a certain distance over the ocean, and you just don't see them anymore. Where are they? It's kind of what happened with the Malaysian Airlines thing.
Yeah, I just posted the link there for Flight Tracker Doc up there, and I'm still haven't come down one side or the other, or as I said, on all this satellite stuff, just because it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually affect the difference of the curvature of the Earth or anything else. It has absolutely no relevance. I want to do this from my own point of view. But right now, I'm leaning on the side that satellites don't exist, just because when I'm going to the manufacturers, I can't find a picture of them. Can't explain, global positioning systems other than a land-based system, but it still doesn't mean that those satellites could be there, and I'm dead wrong on that, because they could still work on a flat Earth just exactly the same as they do on a round Earth. It makes no difference whatsoever. But if you do look on that satellite link, I'm going to do it again for people, so they've got it for that flight tracker. If you go over the oceans, you will see that when you do see them, they are over close to, because there are people going over bodies of water. You can see those planes over bodies of water, but they are close to islands. The only real place they do that is across the Atlantic, where there aren't any islands after you go past Bermuda and such on. The thing about those satellites and those GPS stuff, really, if they are there and they are doing what they say they're doing, how can we possibly lose aircraft? That's my question. It's like, well, okay, I totally understand where you're coming from, because I want to, obviously it doesn't matter in my model or not if they exist or they don't, but how can we lose airplanes if they're real, if we've got GPS systems?
Well, it's probably a case of you have to be under them to see them. I mean, the Earth is large, and there's not enough satellites to cover every square inch, so I don't find that too improbable. What I find improbable, though, is expecting a satellite that orbits a globe to be just exactly the same as a satellite that would orbit a flat plane that's entirely different matter. How would they stay up there? They have no power source. Once they're launched and they're shoved out in their orbit, that's pretty much it for them. I mean, maybe they might have the capability to steer a little bit, but certainly not to keep themselves up, in that orbit on a flat plane. There's nothing that would explain why they would be up. If that were so, you wouldn't need fuel once you got your airplane up a certain height. There has to be something, a mechanism to keep a satellite up there. So, either they're there or they're not there. They couldn't be there if it's a flat Earth, so they have to constantly be launching them. They'd go do a circle and poop. As soon as they lost whatever shove you gave them, as soon as they lost their momentum, that would be it, and they'd fall to Earth. But I'm not really sure how you could possibly equate them operating around a sphere and them operating on a flat in the same manner. You'd have to explain that.
Do you want me to tell you how? Okay. So because this isn't my theory, and that's why I say I'm looking into, because I haven't looked into this side of the aspects at all whatsoever. Because there is a theory that's basically saying that when you go past a certain point, space still exists. So the weightlessness of space is still there. So as soon as you get the perpetual motion of it going, it just carries on going around again. Because the other problem I have when you go back to the round model, again, the equations of the satellite spinning and rotating with the ever-changing presence of the Earth obviously doing that, which has obviously got a wobble on as well, so obviously it moves and wobbles. I want the calculation that it's moving when it's going around the curvature of the Earth again, which isn't there, because there isn't a standard calculation for the curvature of the Earth, which goes back to our original point right back at the start. When you start looking into all that satellites and all that stuff, that calculation isn't there. So when you're saying, okay, but you're going to run out of perpetual motion and stuff when you go into space, yeah, I totally agree with you, 100% right. But then there are some flat earthers out there that say, no, when you go into space, it's exactly how space is now. And I'm like going, okay, but it's a possibility, because I haven't looked into that yet. I can't debunk it, I can't say they're right, I can't say they're wrong, because I haven't done enough data research on that yet.
Okay, then let's switch gears. And now with seismic mapping, we have a pretty good idea now, at least, Yellowstone's been in the news and about the magma chamber underneath it, and they've recently seismically mapped it, and it's a lot larger than they first originally thought it was. And we're actually getting a pretty good map of what's under the Earth now, according to all of these seismic readings, and it's kind of coming out like it is a globe. If there's an earthquake in, say, Japan, the way that those waves travel through the Earth is unexplained by a flat Earth, but perfectly explained by a globe, a spherical model. How do you take that into account?
Do you want me to go on that, JJ?
You briefly repeat it?
No. Well, basically, see, the evidence that's been given there, I'd have to look into, because I've actually been looking at seismic activities, because that's how they weighed the Earth originally in the first place. So for the seismic earthquake to actually get through from one side of Japan and actually map it, that has to be bigger than the earthquake and tsunami that we had. Otherwise, it's not traversing through the 24,000 miles of the Earth that's supposed to be there, plus the core, to get to the other side, to map it. So I'd have to really look at that data to do it, because when I was looking at the data, how they measured the weight of the Earth after they come up with that calculation, and they used exactly what you're talking about, seismic data to match it. It gets really interesting, because there's a point when it changes through rock that it completely changes. And the data literally goes from one point to another. And right off the top of my head, because it's like 7:30 in the morning and I've been up all day, I know that there is an equation that shows that actually goes, right, this is how far it can travel through the rock, and that's it. So I know that I can sit there and look at it and go, right, that claim's absolutely false, because it can't go past 7 or 8 miles, because this is what this test is, and this test is proven, and this test is proven. But right now, this early in the morning, I can't put my finger on it. I'm still trying to get this other links up, but I would be interested to look at that one, because that one to me, I'll take it on board and do the research.
How do we know what the Earth is comprised of? We all saw the pictures in school of that Earth cut in half, and you got the orange and the red layer and the yellow layer in the center. We've drilled 8 miles down. Humanity is only drilled 8 miles down. That's it. So everything we see that we can't verify with our own eyes is a cartoon. And that goes for our school books, to NASA, to everything. When I don't mind cartoons if we have real live action footage to back it, but we don't. We get these cartoons, so everybody gets this picture of the Earth in their heads, this globe, with the inner core, the mantle, the crust. 8 miles down. That's all we can verify. And they broke drills. Like, they couldn't. That was it. Like, they didn't just say, okay, we hit 8 miles, we're done. No, that's the farthest they could go, and then they they cooked everything. Like, they cooked their drill bits. They were done. That's it, and that's as far as we can go. So what's down there? We don't know. We only know 8 miles. That's it. And the rest has been cartoons, and that we've built reality off of those cartoons ever since.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. We have a question from the audience. Kyle, please go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate this topic. It's a topic that brings us to questions of our fundamental assumptions of reality and how we learn and how we decide what it is that we believe. It makes us question some of our fundamental ideas about how things work. I just wanted to ask you guys, you know, a lot of the sources that you've given have been watch this YouTube, watch that YouTube, and you want to dissuade people from looking to maybe more official sources like NASA or anyone who actually has lots of high-paid people who do math all day actually working for them to, you know, use these ideas of, say, the round Earth as the basis of their living. And I was curious, what kind of sources do you have besides YouTube channels that might provide something of a reasonable basis, besides something like, oh, here's a fact about this or whatever, something that somebody might actually study? Because from my perspective, people in things like the weather industry or a lot of different industries, even just my father and I with our telescopes, you know, there's a lot of math involved where it's fairly obvious that the spherical Earth model works and the flat Earth model does not work. And I'm curious, what kind of resources might there be for exploring your viewpoint without reference to YouTube?
That's a good question, and we hear that all the time. But if you have a friend, and he's a pathological liar, and you've caught him in, I don't know, maybe 50% of his lies that you can prove were lies, are you still going to take his word for things? This is where we're coming with NASA and anybody affiliated with NASA, because if they're an affiliate of NASA, they're giving a thumbs up to what NASA's saying. They're a partner in crime. We say YouTube because that's us, civilians. I can go put something on YouTube right now, and that's from me, and it's honest, and it's one of us. It's not one of them. They're set up to keep the show going, to keep whatever lies they got going. And all the people in here, you guys have all researched different things. We all have different puzzle pieces, but we all come across lies in all of them. In the Federal Reserve and this government and that government, we're coming up with lies, but yet we still keep going to those people to tell us the truth, tell us the truth. How many lies do we got to get from these people before we start saying, we're going to do this ourselves, because we can't trust you anymore? You've lied to us too many times. Gulf of Tonkin, I mean, you know, the CIA, Tuskegee, we can go on and on. You guys know all this stuff. I know a lot with NASA. I've been following them for 3 decades. I remembered their facts, and then when they've changed them, and when they've changed them again, when they add new things, and I scream, you know, bloody hell about it, and people look at me like I'm weird because they're not doing the same thing I'm doing. If you yourself did this, you would say, you would be exactly like I am right now, because when we all have the same information, we all come to the same conclusions. We don't all have the same information. We all have scattered fractal information. And we keep seeking these official sources. They got to have a stamp, an officialness to it. That's part of the mind control. You don't trust anything that's not official because they're not professional or funded. Or that's been put into us all our lives, that's the only thing that's credible. But I can, you know, I see a plane crash outside, I film with my camera, I put it on YouTube. That's just as real as the news. But the news will put a spin on it or something. Yeah, you can't trust them because they've done this before. So I know YouTube, people, you know, there's a lot of crap on YouTube, obviously. There's a lot of truth on YouTube, too. You have to have discernment. You have to know. You have to give it the sniff test. And, you know, it takes a little bit of time and practice, but then it eventually comes easy. You can say, oh, this is real. This is not real. And I always say, attack this. Step 1, identify the liars and the lie. Step 2, see step 1. And we have to identify the liars and the lies so we can just eliminate their information, because that's bad information. We want good information. And civilians, poor civilians, I'm very poor. I got nothing to, I got nothing to lose. I got nothing to keep. Like, I'm just looking for the truth. And there's a lot of us out there, and we're getting poorer, and they're getting richer. And I trust the honest people, the hardworking people, just the regular people. I don't trust them anymore. It's been too many lies. So, I mean, I hope I answered your question, but that's kind of how I come at it.
So I appreciate that you do not wish to trust NASA just because they're official, or that you wish to side with this kind of proletariat intelligence pool of people who are the poor ordinary people rather than the institution. I understand that. There's a wealth of information out there and things that you can do independently that verify your viewpoint one way or another. And what I'm really asking is, what kind of resources do you have, or that you've used, which would expand the way that you have come to this understanding, if not through NASA, if not through the Weather Service, if not through the Japanese satellite builders, or whoever it is that you would qualify as maybe too wealthy to be believable, then what kind of resources do you have at your disposal? What kind of experiments and experimental protocols would you place upon yourself? There's an enormous amount of material that focuses on this topic. There are literally billions, perhaps $1 trillion worth of merchandise floating around in space and going on the world. You've mentioned that there would be advertisements in space. Well, there are. Lockheed Martin is advertising every time it launches a satellite. It's telling people, look, we put it up there. I'm curious as to what you, as an ordinary, poor person, would consider to be a believable source or means of experimentation beyond what you would simply find on the internet.
Provide me with real, live photography or video of their alleged claims. And that's why I say YouTube, because it's live photography. Regular people are not putting up cartoon graphics to show you your reality. They're showing you your reality with their camera, and that's it. Like, oh, these satellites are, show me a photo. Oh, the world's round, show me a photo. Well, here are these images. No, I want a photograph, not an image. A photograph. An image is everything. Everything's an image. A photograph, a painting, that's all images. That's just a cluster of things. I want a photograph, camera, real camera. So step 1, show me proof of what you're claiming with a photograph, something I can see. That's my experiment. Our flat Earth experiments are our eyes, telescope, curvature math, real photographs, just your basics. We're trying to work with the basics. We're not trying to work with advanced billion-dollar things. We want to start with the basics, because we kind of have to start over again. When I realized Earth's flat, I got to throw everything out and start fresh. Wipe the slate clean. Let's start fresh. I'm going to rebuild my knowledge. This time, I'm not going to just accept what I'm told passively without questioning it. And we all question, the ball in school. We all say, well, it looks flat. Oh, and the teacher said, no, it's not. And then we question how gravity works. And we got an answer that basically came to magic, because nobody seems to be able to explain it or duplicate it in a lab. I was asking in the beginning of this, show me a real experiment where they can make water stick to a ball. Just show me that. I want to see water curve around a ball. I take a fish tank and I put a ball in it, and it just sinks or floats. I want to see the real thing. Then we can go into this other stuff. Then we can go to step 2 and 3. Step 1, show me something is real. and we just work with what we can see. And I hit it just with the basics. Show me a curvature. Show me a picture of a satellite. Show me a real picture of a planet that isn't a cartoon. Like, I've looked at all the planets through telescopes, and you will find real footage of them on YouTube. Pretty good telescopes. They don't look anything like NASA's grand, detailed images, and they look self-illuminated. They're all evenly lit. There's no hot spots on them from the sun. We get a hot spot. You can see it in the high altitude balloons. You see the hot spot from the sun on the cloud, or you see it on the ground or on the water, and clearly there's sun hot spots. We don't see that on the moon either. That appears to be self-illuminated. And if you look at how light works on a sphere, I mean, you will see a hot spot if it's reflecting the sun's light, which these planets are allegedly doing. But it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be that these planets are self-illuminated, dim. Wandering stars. That's what they used to call the planets. Wandering stars, just dimmer than our sun, but self-illuminated. We're just trying to work with the basics. That's basically it. Yeah, go ahead.
JJ, I just want to hit on a point. They're talking about Lockheed Martin advertising in space. I put out Bigelow Aerospace. Okay, I know I've worked in all sorts of businesses and high-end companies all over the world. What I see when I see that Bigelow Aerospace, go through it, look at it. What it is what I call a fluff page. There's no content there. All it looks like is we've got what's called a dummy company to get funding from somewhere else. We used to do these all the time for startup companies, and we used to have our splash page with our web presence on Facebook and all these other places, but it's hollow. And if you look at most of these websites, that's what they are. They're hollow. They make a claim of launching satellites up into space with their pods and all this other stuff. If you launch satellites into space with these pods and all that sort of nonsense, right? You would have a video of that on that show, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would. You'd actually have that video there. Because you're selling yourself. It's your company website. It's your image. It's your thing. It isn't there. And if you're trying to get more people in to go and invest into your company and do whatever you want, as much information as possible there, as much cool videos, especially something as cool as launching a rocket into space with your own satellite on it. But it's not there. Google it. Then there's no video of the launch they're talking about, and they don't ever nail down specifics of when that is launched. It's a private company, but what they will get is government funding to shut the hell up and do what they want. And if you go onto their careers page, there's hundreds of jobs at this place. You can go there. I've applied for loads of deals. But of course, is it real? Don't know, because no one knows anyone that works at Bigelow Ranch. It's Skinwalker Ranch. It all gets fluffed away. So you really have to look at this and go, right, is it real? Is it just
I have a question from our recorder, Liberty. He wants to know your opinion on the Bedford level experiments.
Well, you've looked them up. They did this experiment on a channel. I think it was 6 miles, 5 or 6 miles, maybe it was 4 miles, 4 to 6 miles.
6 miles,
and
the canal I was talking about earlier,
Yep. And they did this thing. What was it? With a string and a telescope to see if there was any curvature, and they found none. Our friend Grav, she talks about the Suez Canal. What's that? Was that 70 miles long? I think no curvature whatsoever across that. That's a water experiment. That's a good one, because land can have dips, peaks, valleys. I don't like using land to do a flat Earth experiment. We can only really do it on water, because I really want to see water bend. I want to see water bend on a ball. That will give a lot of validity to the ball Earth to me. Just show me water bending on a ball. Like, they can't even duplicate that in an experiment in a lab.
I'll go with water sticking to a ball spinning at 1,100 miles an hour and not flying off because of magic. But the question he was asking was the one that I was referring to earlier, when basically everyone was suing each other over all the nonsense, because one guy said it wasn't level, the other guy was saying it was level, and it all got way out of hand. And basically, proves nothing because both of them ended up suing each other, and I think one guy died as well at some point, and you know, he tried to carry on the fight against him in his death. It is all crazy talk.
Show curvature over water. Grav also likes to talk about this big hump of water that should be in the Pacific Ocean for curvature that is just not there. Because there will be like an arc. I mean, there's lots of images. It's hard to do just trying to describe it with words without seeing the actual visuals for it. But you know, over great distances over water, there should be kind of a hump, you know, an arc in between us and the object we're looking at, because we're on a ball, we're on a sphere. But more and more lately, there's been military Navy guys coming out talking about radar systems and painting targets from 50, 100 miles away, hitting them dead on straight laser over water. A lot of professionals have been coming out to add their 2 cents to the lack of curvature argument. Now, these are basic fundamental parts of the flat Earth. No curvature, no real photographs of the Earth in space that can't be debunked, or, you know, even questionable with the shading and whatnot. Just the basics. Like, I'm trying to hit it from the basics, and if I can't get the basics proven, this other advanced stuff, it's all moot. It's a moot point at that point if you can't even find curvature. Like, that's just something basic.
That's what really got me. If there isn't a universal calculation equation for the curvature that is used in AutoCAD, mission defense systems, and remember that curvature also changes because based on the model of the Earth, because the Earth isn't supposed to be round, it's supposed to be semi sort of egg-shaped as you know, portraying to. Well, that curvature would change at sea level based on certain areas. That would be maps. That would be, right, when you're past this area, you can't fire a missile or blow up that piece of crap over there because you need to put this calculation in because it's slightly higher or lower. Well, that isn't existing. So that isn't existing, there's no curvature.
Before you go on with the second question, why does gravity not exist on a flat plane? Why would water stay where it is if a flat Earth has no gravity?
Hans, the gravity guy, I've been attributing.
Yeah, no, I'll answer it, no problem. Of course, well, basically, it goes back to something very, very simple. And the fact that it just nestles, I'll give you the Mark Sargent sort of answer, if you will. It just nestles in the puddle. You don't need gravity to hold you down when this is the lowest point that we can drop to. Mass of the weight of the object that pulls you down. The problem with gravity is when you start doing the gravitational equations, as I was saying earlier, for the North and South Pole, it would crush the human skeleton. And that doesn't happen. So this myth of gravity, of believing of fairies that control gravity in the moon and gravity in the Earth, according to Sir Isaac Newton, that's his words, doesn't exist. So that's my big problem with that. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. I'm just exhausted. But on the flat plane, oh sorry, I clapped off the button. Well, that's why water always seems to find its level, which it couldn't do. Water wouldn't always go down to this level on a spinning globe. It wouldn't. It would go off to whatever is the strongest mass in that area because that's what gravity would dictate it to do, and it doesn't do that. I hope I answered your question. I don't think I did. Good bad job. I'm just tired.
Gravity, I think, I just attribute that to density and buoyancy. I think that's what it used to be called before they coined gravity, just density and buoyancy.
Question for everybody once again. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to ramble about gravity and the mind programming of the apple falling from the tree, like no one had seen that before, right? Okay.
So my question is from Liberty, and I'm curious about this too myself. If the Earth is truly flat, what's on the other side of the flat Earth?
Join us.
Yeah, that's the basement man cave, which I'm trying to find the door to. It could be a hollow earth down there. No idea. Got no idea. That's what I want to find out. That's what I'm looking for. Hopefully it's a man cave.
Well, what do you think is there, in your honest opinion?
That's what I don't do. I'm not that sort of speculative guy. I speculate on pretty much, lots of things in my life, but not on something like this, because you can go on for a million tangents. There's a million different, people out there that'll have a million different opinions. Like if you look at the photos of the North Pole with the, looks like to be a hole. Might be a hole, or it could be something coming up out of it, pushing against the top of a dome. No idea. I'm not going to say it's a dome, not going to say it's a hole, because I haven't been there and I don't have the information to speculate on that. And anyone who does that is basically just sort of pandering to the audience or trying to get, oh, this is that, or this, or this. You haven't got the data and information. That's why I want to go there. That's why I want to make the effort and walk around the damn thing, even if I get frostbite and have to cut both my feet off. That's what you need to do to go find the answer. Well, that's what I'm going to go do to find the answer. To be fair, though, I've heard all sorts of stuff about Antarctic, and I've got a contact who's from down there, and I just, from back when I was, connected, and I completely can't find his emails from him, and I hope I can. Because when you get into the Admiral Byrd stuff, I have a feeling that there are other beings down there. I honestly do. I think that we are going to find, and they're sitting there laughing at us, going, you stupid idiots. If you let this lot take you over, we would help you, but we just think you're stupid. And that's what I think I'll probably end up finding.
Hey, gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up. It's been almost 2.5 hours now. I'm getting tired. You're getting tired. We're all getting tired. So I'm going to give you guys final thoughts. I'm going to close it out. Go ahead, gentlemen.
I go first?
You go right ahead, mate.
Right. Well, basically what I suggest people want to do, I mean, what you can do if you really are curious about this, start with the basics. Start looking at things just on the basic level. Where's the curvature, and where are real photographs that, don't seem tainted, don't seem iffy, don't seem, just also lie. Like, if you think NASA's lying, you probably should stop going to them for truth, because you actually believe they lied to you, yet you want to go to them for truth. To me, seems like a logical fallacy. And I made that mistake myself. I was a hybrid. You lied about the moon, but you're honest about the ISS and the shuttles, and Flat Earth slapped me in the face with that. It really did. Why was I doing that? I thought, why was I still listening to them? Why? I know they lied to me. Why did I do that? And it's not like they lied then about the moon. They're lying today about the moon by not admitting it. So this lie that happened, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's still going. So when they lie in the past and they don't admit to it, that's still a lie. That's still ongoing. Just the basics. Just, show me proof. That's it. And just come at it from an honest level. Just show me proof. And do your own research. Don't ever take our word for it. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Always, always, always do your own research and verify it. And that comes right down to your daily news on TV. There's a lot of doom. There's a lot of hype. Look into it yourself. It's all I can tell you. Trust yourselves. You guys are not stupid. None of us are. I mean, we are sometimes, but we have working brains. We have working eyes. We need to start using them and trusting ourselves and our own gut instincts a little bit more than the TV has trained us not to. And that's my advice to everybody.
Well, I'll come in a little bit more there. When I say trust nobody, they're all lying. As I said before, I'm still waiting for the Galactic Federation of Light Fleet to come in from 2007 from the Kuiper Belt and save everybody, because no one obviously researched it and paid any attention to Archangel Gabriel telling them through a channeled message of his cousin's brother's nephew postman said it's going to happen, and it didn't happen.
And they're still working on it.
People are still lying in this flat Earth theory. Like they're using things like Captain Cook, which is kind of interesting. James T. Kirk, Captain Kirk, same names, slightly changed when he went around on this expedition for 5 years going around Antarctica. Well, he didn't. They lie about it. He didn't go around Antarctica. He went around the Sandwich Isles. He was never around the South Pole. But they'll use that and they'll throw that red herring in there. So if you research it, they'll go, they're lying because of the South Pole thing. No, we're not, because we've looked at it, and that's bullshit. So you've got to do all of your own work and your research, and you start going through and you find out, well, that guy's lying, this guy's lying, that guy's he's telling half-truths. The only person that matters is telling the truth and lying is yourself. Wake yourself up. Stop listening to other people. Go and get yourself another degree. Go and work out the exact things that they're using against you and become smart about it. That's the real difference. And that's the eye-opener when you start actually empowering yourself. Because most people don't want to empower themselves. They want to blame somebody else. Or they see a YouTube video that says, oh yeah, curvature debunked. They don't even watch the damn video. They just see the title and go, yeah, that's right. They've got no idea what it's about. No idea of any concept of anything. Just because they've read a title. And if they take their time, take their research, and if they don't have an answer, ask somebody else. Hey, what have you come up with this answer for? Because I'm sure somebody out there is going to go and say, I'm not smart enough to look at it, or I haven't had the energy to look at it. And you'll start to get like-minded people around you that actually want to know all of these answers that we're lied about. Because we are lied about pretty much damn everything.
Wow, good stuff, guys. It's been an interesting show. Flat Earth theory, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, remember one thing, the truth is out there. But in order to get the true truth of anything, you have to research it. You have to test it with fire. You have to question it. And this is what these two gentlemen have done with the Flat Earth theory. They've tested theories from NASA. They researched it. And they come to their own conclusion that it's not as it seems out there. Not even close. These two gentlemen will be back on my show next month for Did We Go to the Moon? Did we really go to the moon? That's going to be another epic show. I want to thank everybody here in the audience and on the airwaves for listening in. It's been fun. I hope you learned something. I'll see you next time.